Hey, everybody in the house today as we get ready to break down all the things that have been going on with the Indiana Pacers, the Indiana Fever, and even get KB's thoughts on a recent quarterback signing that we talked about. Sighting, not signing, but sighting that we talked about yesterday. KB, welcome back from a little golf vacation. You have a good time? Get away? Feel refreshed?
Yeah, the heart skipped a beat when you said quarterback signing. I'm
No.
boy, I know I've been MIA for a while, but did I miss something? Because lo and behold, that's probably about the only thing in the news cycle that hasn't happened. Excellent trip for the golf sickos out there. I could not recommend Bandon Dunes anymore. It was long travel. The Eugene airport is very small and particularly understaffed, but nonetheless, reality hit this morning when that alarm went off, and Max Bowen all of a sudden said, "Daddy, bring this dinosaur to work." So I have a dinosaur in my book bag if anybody wants it.
No, I think that'll be appropriate at home is probably where that'll work. I've done a couple of games in Eugene, and they always say it never rains on game day, and of course it always rains in the morning on game day. What was your weather like out there? Did you have fun?
It actually wasn't too bad. Little chilly the last day. I was wearing a winter hat, which I know probably shocks people based off of the weather we've had here over the last few weeks, but views were immaculate. Roger Goodell was in the group behind us.
Wow.
At one point.
Was he pushing?
I was told he had to bail after 8 holes
okay.
to catch a flight, but then we actually saw him at dinner later that night. But no, he was friendly, so
that was good.
That was
So
probably
basically, Kevin's telling us he's low-key friends with Roger Goodell. He just doesn't want to put it all out there. You know, he's got to drop a couple nuggets.
Well, come on the show, Kevin.
I think he was very this is my one chance to get away. The last person I want to see is someone in the NFL media world. Will you just get away from me? Let me smoke my cigar and play golf.
Yeah, but the commissioner, that's a pretty good deal. I mean, you look behind you.
I was stunned. Yes.
He's waiting for you to hurry up and putt on a par 3, right?
I was stunned when I saw him. But no, excellent trip, and happy to be back because this is not your typical Wednesday, July 2nd in a non-MLB market. We got some news.
No, we have a lot of news. And, of course, the Myles Turner stuff just smacked me right in the forehead. And I don't know if it would just got to be a point where the Pacers said, James, we're willing to go this far, but no farther than that, and we're willing to go this many years, but not farther than that. And the Bucks are like, hey, we'll do that, because the Bucks, not only do they weaken a division opponent, they seem to get better, although it doesn't feel like Giannis was very happy with the corresponding moves with Dame and things of that nature. But then we also see Duncan Robinson gets traded by Miami, goes up to Detroit. It feels like within 48 hours, everybody in the division all of a sudden has gotten better. And that singular moment when Tyrese goes down in Game 7, man, it feels like it's cracked the window, and the window just keeps having multiple cracks from there on out, James.
Yeah, to explain everything that happened yesterday for those who may have missed it, Myles Turner signed a 4-year, $107 million deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. He ends his tenure as the longest tenure Pacer, his first 10 years with the franchise, yesterday. Now, I believe the deal can't become official until this upcoming weekend, but that is what happened. And then all of us were like, wait a second, how did the Bucks get that much money to even sign him? They used the waive and stretch position, the waive and stretch provision to waive and stretch Damian Lillard, which basically means he had $112 million guaranteed left on his deal over the next 2 years. They waived him and stretched it for 5 years. So they'll have $22 million in dead cap roughly over the next 5 years on their books for Damian Lillard, who would not play for their franchise. And for those who are familiar, and I shout out to Twitter because people mentioned this to me because I was like, man, I can't remember the last time this happened. I didn't know this was possible. They reminded me that Monte Ellis, the Pacers did the same thing for Monte Ellis a few years ago. And actually, my one and only season on the Pacers beat full-time, 2021-22, was the last year they paid Monte Ellis after waiving him. But the big difference there, fellas, was Monte Ellis only had $11 million left on his deal. And like I just said, Lillard has $112 million guaranteed. So it was a fascinating move, a very aggressive move by the Bucks. I don't know if it makes them necessarily better going into next year, but at least shows Giannis, hey, we're willing to try pretty much anything to keep you happy. But, your thoughts, Kevin, because I was floored. Not really because of where he left, but where he left to. I was like, what is this? How is this even possible?
Yeah, that is a good point. He went to, I guess, the biggest rival the Pacers have. I don't even know if you would describe Milwaukee like that. But
can you imagine Myles Turner taking the game ball?
There's a lot there with the Bucks. I would say this, because there's levels of it. Surprised, not stunned. Like, stunned is at another rung up the ladder for me. And let's go back 1 week from today. I remember walking in the studio 1 week from today, right after we had spoken with Rick Carlisle. And James, you and I, we played back the Carlisle interview.
Yeah.
And there was a part where I wanted to say to Mark, like, Mark, this sounds weird, but could you go back and find the Pascal Siakam answer from the year prior? And could we compare the Siakam answers side by side to the Turner answer? And I know Rick, when I asked him, hey, what's your number one priority of the offseason? Very quickly he was, I know what you're getting at here. You're talking about Myles Turner. But if you listen, and again, we are at times readers of body language, readers of tone, that sort of aspect to it. I heard the Pascal Siakam love the year prior, like me going on my golf trip to Panda Dunes last week. I heard the Myles Turner, like me, oh yeah, I get to go play golf at South Grove today, or I get to go play golf at Coffin. I'm obviously happy. I'm playing golf, but it's not like the dream scenario. And so when I heard that, there was just a little bit of pause. And, Rick did mention in that answer, I don't know what the numbers are going to look like. And, again, that was still in the very raw aftermath of what happened with Tyrese Halliburton. And that's where I think the first yellow flag kind of went up for me of like, okay, this is not going to be a Obi Toppin fast break slam dunk here, that this is just done. And then, when you saw what Naz Reid got, when you went through the first day of free agency, I think that's where I was a little bit like, wow, this thing might not be a reunion in a continued, 10th, 11th year. I think for fans, it's a bit jarring from a heart standpoint. Like 9 days ago, you're playing for an NBA championship, and now this is where you're at. I think that is jarring, but I think when you get away from the heart aspect of it, I think the head aspect of it makes a little bit more sense. And the big thing that I would say is windows. James, you and I talked about this a lot last week. You really have about one time to get into that tax 2-3 year window.
Yeah, fair.
You
That's
got
fair.
one time to do it. And right now, given the state of your star, is probably not the time, as disappointing as that sounds. But that's the reality of where you're at as a franchise right now. Obviously, how they pivot, how they build remains to be seen, and that's a lot of uncertainty that fans don't like right now. But again, I would say surprised, not totally stunned.
You know what I thought about yesterday, and really I was thinking about, like, man, when Kevin comes back to the show, this is like perfect timing.
I was so happy it happened after the show. It did yesterday.
Like what? Maybe an hour after the
Yeah, it
show,
was about
right?
an hour.
I landed in Denver. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, what was that like when you're traveling, you're not really working, and you're just minding your own business? And
it wasn't
you get
Scotty
an alert?
Scheffler getting arrested in Vegas, as Mark recalls, but yeah, it was because then I'm on a Denver to Indy flight, and that's like how everyone is talking about it at the gate at that point.
So you were hammering, and I think this is a moment that for those of us who were here for this run and paid close attention, they'll remember this. Game 4. Someone mentioned it in my Twitter comments yesterday, and they were like, Game 4, not Game 7, Game 4 will really, really haunt this team. And I was thinking, yes, I could not agree more. Because obviously, if you go up 3-1 in Game 4, close it out in Game 6, perhaps Tyrese doesn't, get hurt in Game 6, doesn't obviously know Game 7 to tear his Achilles. It changes so much. And, we could do this all day with different scenarios, but I did think about that long and hard yesterday, like, wow, Game 4 might have been the opportunity that really was the real one. Now, I understand Game 7, he's cooking, he's playing well, but a chance to go up 3-1, chance to potentially close out in Game 6 at home, no Game 7 if that does happen. You're NBA champs, he has his Achilles intact, things look totally different for your franchise. Now, whether Myles stays or goes, whatever, you've won a championship at that point. But, man, like I've thought about that a lot, Kevin. And just how different, things in this league can change so quickly from one game to the next, one play to the next. And I think the ripple effect will be felt for that for a while now.
When the door is open, you better bleep and shut it. And when you didn't shut it at the end of Game 4,
Yeah.
I thought the series was over. And I get that there were moments where you still felt like it was possible.
They responded like they always do.
Yeah, but, asking to win a Game 7 on the road. And again, I had that horrific analogy last week. I'm sure Jake Query was just absolutely just stirring in his sleep.
I didn't hear this, so I can't wait now.
Yeah, it was absolutely awful. I had a cheating wife analogy in there, but then lo and behold, you see yesterday's news, and I don't know, maybe that analogy actually holds a little bit more truth to it all. But yeah, it is certainly, I think, more from a heart of like, wow, I mean, this is how the Turner thing ends? After all those years about debating the whole trades and all of it. And guys, think about the last time he was on the court. He was benched in the fourth quarter, Game 7. He played 40 seconds in Game 7. Chet Holmgren just outplayed him like no other. It's just such a disappointing end to what is one of the more unique athlete careers in this city and state.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whenever people use the phrase like good soldier, I feel like that's kind of a weird phrase to use. But he was that, for you for a decade. And I'd say this, because I know we got a lot of different tentacles we can get to throughout today, and Scott Agnes is going to join us now coming up a little bit later. We do need to get an update on one of the more horrific injuries maybe I've ever seen last night in Red Panda falling to the ground.
I know. I was devastated when I saw that this morning. She's hurt.
Via Scott, my one gripe about all this, when you are a small-ish market team, when you are an ownership that is not going to live in the tax, you can't let quality players walk away for nothing. And the fact that Myles Turner walks away for nothing,
that's the tough part.
That, I think, is probably my biggest gripe in all of this.
That's
and
a
I know
fair
it would have
gripe.
been difficult. Sign and trade, and the Bucs swooped in here and did something that no one really saw. But that, for every string that Kevin Pritchard and that group has pulled, seemingly everything they've touched has turned to gold here over the last 3 or 4 years from a building standpoint. Turner walking for nothing, that is that's that to me from a business side is the most disappointing aspect of it.
Tough day for the Indiana Pacers. No question about that. We'll be talking about it all morning long. We'll get some of your feedback at 239-1070. But there is some good news. The Indiana Fever had a great night last night. We'll tell you all about that next as we continue the Fan Morning Show at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
107.5 The Fan.
All right, we'll start with the Myles Turner news. It broke about an hour after the show ended yesterday. James Boyd, the Milwaukee Bucks, signed free agent Myles Turner.
Well, you
to
know
a
me.
4-year, $107 million deal.
I love pettiness, and so those Bucks and Pacers games next year are going to be amazing for the petty meter.
Yeah, whether it's the basketball, whether it's John Halliburton getting in Giannis' face, whether it's...
I need John Halliburton to get in Miles' face.
Yeah, whether it's a 4-point play in the regular season to finish it off for the Pacers, or whether it's dusting them in the first round. They got Myles Turner. I don't know if that was a little payback or not, Kevin, but how do you see this whole thing moving forward now from the Pacers' perspective?
Yeah, that's obviously the biggest unknown in all of it. You know, the center market is very dry from a free agent standpoint. You know, can you entertain a trade to go out and find a center? You know, Tony Bradley, that team option was picked up. Obviously, you're going to need more at the top of the depth chart than Myles. You know, one thing the Pacers have done incredibly well under Kevin Pritchard, they have pivoted, they have maneuvered quite well. We will see, obviously, how it unfolds here. What's the situation with Benedict Mathurin as he is extension eligible? Does that get entertained at all now that you've got a little bit more money? So, again, I think that's what's difficult as we sit here on the morning of July 2nd. You know, fans want quick answers.
Oh, yeah.
And right now there is no answer. And I would argue not only do they want quick answers, they want something on paper that makes sense. Right now there's nothing on paper that is very obvious. So I get that. I understand that. How that plays out over the next handful of days will obviously be a huge storyline.
I'm going to get that Apple iPhone report on Sunday where it tells you how much time you've been spending on your phone. And just based on yesterday alone and refreshing and looking and constantly checking, it's probably going to be like 6 hours a day this coming Sunday because it's just all day long, JB. I was looking to see what might happen next. Not much news from the Pacers, though, yesterday.
No, the news was that your longest senior player is now with someone else.
Yeah, that's how it worked out. We can also tell you another NBA movement yesterday. Duncan Robinson signed a 3-year, $48 million deal to go to the Detroit Pistons. You know, they got some young, great talent. They're going to be a problem in the division in the next several years, JB.
Yeah, I mean, they go out and get a shooter, and their other shooter that they intended, I believe, to re-sign, Malik Beasley, has got himself in some hot water with some alleged
he's being investigated.
Being investigated for gambling on his, own games and
Tim Hardaway Jr. to the Nuggets. We should mention that.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
So that's part of why.
And the Nuggets got Bruce Brown back too. We saw him briefly come through here with Indiana, but it feels like they're kind of taking some pressure off of Jokic again, getting some depth behind he and Murray, and kind of getting the band back together a little bit because Valanciunas went there late yesterday as well.
Yeah, and again, I'll focus more on the Pistons because they're in the Central, but
Yeah.
I don't necessarily see an upgrade. You know, Duncan Robinson obviously has had some big-time shooting moments, but Tim Hardaway Jr. was very good for them.
Yeah.
So that just seems kind of one in, one out.
One other thing I did want to mention, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander signs a 4-year, $285 million max deal. Gentlemen, the last year, do you know what he'll make in the last year of that contract?
right, 80 plus.
$80 million a year to play basketball. Good for him. But, man, where are we at?
He deserves it. That dude had the year of his life going into a potential contract extension. So strike while the iron is hot, and it was sizzling after his season.
All right. Also, speaking of sizzling, the Indiana Fever win the Commissioner's Cup in the WNBA last night with a road win in Minnesota, 74-59. They were down, KB, 20-12 at the end of the first quarter, and they literally, with 8.5+ minutes to go in the second quarter, did not allow the Lynx to score again the rest of the half.
Could probably say it's the biggest Fever win in 9 years.
Other than maybe the WNBA championship itself, probably, yeah.
Well,
yeah,
that
in
was
9 years.
over
Yeah,
9
yeah.
years ago.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, they haven't won a playoff game in 9 years.
Yeah.
So, great scenes from the post-game locker room and one with defense. We're not used to the Fever winning with defense. I thought Aaliyah Boston as a facilitator was something she probably doesn't give him enough credit for. She's a great passer. And Sophie Cunningham contributed significantly off the bench last night. So without Caitlin Clark going on the road, beat one of the best teams in the league. That is a great win. And is it 500,000 split up? Is that now?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Commissioner's Cup pool. So
roughly $50K.
for those unfamiliar, this is the in-season tournament version for the WNBA. So it doesn't count toward the standings, but nonetheless,
It counts toward the pockets.
Yeah,
pretty
it
cool.
does.
Yes, definitely counts there, and just a cool scene last night there.
Yeah, to run down some of the numbers and as well as some people played. Nikisha Howard, she was the MVP.
Natasha.
Natasha, I'm sorry, 16 and 12. Thank you very much. I got to wake up this morning.
Oh, good.
Aaliyah, Boston, 12 points, 11 boards. Ari McDonald continues to impress. She's been terrific every time she stepped on the floor for the Fever this year, and she had 12 points. Kelsey Mitchell had 12, and you mentioned Sophie Cunningham, 13 points, 7 rebounds. And for a moment in the second half when it looked like the Lynx might make a run, she just doused it with that big three-pointer and said good night. I think about 3.5, 4 minutes to go and kind of put the dagger in.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of buried the lead here. No Caitlin Clark in this game. You know, she was there in person cheering on her team, but to get that win without her, to get her some more rest before they face the Aces on Thursday in a game that actually counts towards the standings, that's a big, big win. And I did joke after the game that Caitlin Clark got the Tyrese Halliburton treatment in the Olympic final. You know, an A on the group project, but not much contribution in the final part.
How dare you, James? That's not funny.
Oh my gosh, dude!
He mentions you guys.
Yeah.
I enjoy the banter, but yes, it was a joke, and people know that. And I think Caitlin would know that
Sarcasm meter on social media sometimes is hard to find.
Yeah, a little tough.
It is. Also, KB mentioned this a few moments ago if you're just joining us. At halftime, the legendary and beloved Red Panda falls, appears to hold her back, is wheeled out into an ambulance, and we're all just praying and hoping that Red Panda, who's been entertaining all of us at halftime for 3 decades, is going to be fine and just bumped and bruised a little bit.
The GOAT. Yeah, next thing you're going to tell me is Joey Chestnut's going to puke during the middle of the hot dog eating contest here coming up on Friday here. I can't have this. Halliburton, Red Panda, and potentially Joey Chestnut later this week. So, honestly, when Scott Agnes joins us at 9, he was in the building last night. That's where I'll go with Scott first. I don't care about Turner. I don't care about the Fever celebrating that. I need a Red Panda update.
A bunch of Fever sending her well wishes via social media after the game last
including
night. I don't know if you
Caitlin
saw that. Yeah. All right, Major League Baseball yesterday. Pirates shut out the Cardinals by a score of 1-0. Speaking about shutouts, though, man, I don't know what's going on. The Cardinals haven't scored a run in 3 games. You seen that?
I've been a little MIA from baseball, but if you're going to tell me the Cardinals haven't scored in 3 days, I might break out a Speedo for that.
There you go. Boston Red Sox.
We don't need any more Speedo talk right now.
Boston Red Sox lead the Cincinnati Reds in a game that was suspended by rain in the top of the 4th. It is 2-1. They'll resume that about 2:30 later on today. We'll also let you know that the Chicago Cubs, they got a win yesterday, Mark. So did you watch any of that baseball game?
I did. I watched a good chunk. Daniel Palencia, the new closer for the Cubs, he is electric. He was throwing 102 miles an hour, just blowing by people on the Guardians. It was outstanding to see. So nice win there for the Cubs.
5-2 was the final score there. Louisville Bats got the better of the Indianapolis Indians in Louisville. 12-5 was the final score there. They will play again tonight at 6:35. Anything else you guys want to throw in?
Like I said, just the Malik Beasley thing is wild to me. I know that's a division team, the Pistons. He was scheduled, or at least on paper, supposed to come back to the Pistons, and now, he's kind of in limbo with him being investigated because of the alleged, gambling and betting. And then if you read a story, I believe it was in the Detroit Free Press, he owes a lot of people money. Mm-hmm. A lot of people. He owes his dentist like $24,000. And I'm like, how do you owe your dentist $24,000?
And not just for a crown, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he owes his barber $26,000. And I'm like, what kind of haircuts are you getting? Are these like diamond encrusted clippers you're using, or what are we doing? So that is a bizarre situation going on. So when we talk about Duncan Robinson and Tim Hardaway Jr. Going elsewhere, just the shooting aspect of that team, he's one of the best shooters in the NBA last season. So him potentially not playing next year, getting in some hot water, is a big deal for this division in particular.
I get a little itchy and scratchy when the barber just asked if I want to do the shampoo. I'm like,
literally,
that's like $5 extra.
Though Dennis garnished his Pistons checks. Like, these are all in court records.
Like, can I keep this under $20 here? That's kind of my goal. Other thing I'll add, IndyCar, busiest month of the year. We'll have the Mid-Ohio race coming up on Sunday afternoon. Scott Dixon, a lot of history there. A lot of really variety of drivers have won there over the last 7 or 8 years, but 5 races total in the month of July. So it is a busy, busy time for the IndyCar season.
All right, a lot of Myles Turner Pacers talk coming up dead ahead. We'll talk to Scott Agnes a little bit later on, but we'll catch you up to speed on everything coming up momentarily right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
with KB, JB, and Jeff.
With the 11th pick in the 2015 NBA Draft, the Indiana Pacers select Myles Turner from the University of Texas.
I really don't know much about Indianapolis, about the city itself. I have a lot of family in Fort Wayne, Indiana. A lot of my mom's side lives down there.
Very young player, but we think in the near future we're going to continue to watch his growth. He's a hard worker. And we just feel like in the near future he's going to be something special for us.
Halliburton to Turner on top. The pick and pop three ties the game.
Turner gets cut off. And he banks it off the window, +1.
And everything offensively going Turner's way right there.
Turner is there, and he hits a three.
I'm just thinking in my mind, go to the guy who's got 37 on 14 shot attempts.
Turner with a 3 to shoot, 2 to shoot. Oh, my goodness! Is happening here. Turner is feeling it, and why not? Why not? Why not? A 3 from 2 miles away, out on the left side. This cannot possibly be happening.
It doesn't rise to the level at all for the Paul George softball game, Kevin Bowen, but to think that just a short time ago he was Mr. Indiana and he was doing all those things, and I get the business, and I'm with James Boyd. You got to do what you got to do, and I don't think I'm never going to be mad at Myles Turner, and I'll be one of those guys that gives him a nice welcome back the first time they come back and play, and then I hope the Fever just run him and the Bucks into the ground after that. But I don't know. I'm still kind of processing the whole thing. I'm not going to lie to you.
Well, I can't see how anybody would be mad at Myles Turner.
Well, no, you never get mad at Myles, but you see my point. Like, it's just, how did this happen?
Myles Turner owed the Pacers nothing after 10 years to be taking a hometown discount to stay with the organization after how many years of trade rumors.
I'm not
this
blaming
and that.
either side. It's just hard to process today. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's probably the better way to put it. And just the suddenness. I mean, the NBA calendar is wild. I mean, when you make it to Game 7 to 10 days ago, us discussing, the Pacers have a chance to win NBA title, and since then, Tyrese Halliburton's torn his Achilles, and Marcus playing clips where James Boyd's asking during the break, "Is that Larry Bird's voice?" Yes, that's how long ago it was that Myles Turner got drafted. So yeah, it is jarring, I think, from a very human aspect of it. When it comes to fandom, and certainly from a heart standpoint, and it is a disappointing end because Turner, again, I think did a lot of very quality things for your franchise. It was a disappointing end to the actual Thunder series for Turner individually, and then obviously how it all played out here in free agency.
Here's the other thing I want to point out, too. You'll read a lot about this, and I've heard so many different people say so many different ranges of what they heard the Pacers were offering, depending on who you believe and where you look. It was somewhere between, 22 and 25 a year, close to that, something. Who knows? Let's just say, for example, the one report that said that it was a 4-year, $97 million offer that the Pacers made, and people go, man, he could have stayed here for that, or maybe the Pacers could have come up a little bit more. All I know is if you're Myles Turner or anybody and you got a contract in front of you where you can make, just by signing the bottom line, $10 million extra, I don't know who doesn't sign that contract, James.
Yeah, I mean,
I know it's funny money and it's crazy money, and people say, well, when is enough, but it's still $10 million that you can pass down generationally to your family.
So you're saying the Pacers should have just paid up if that was the case?
No, I'm saying the Pacers clearly had a number that they were not going to go over. That was clear, right?
Right.
I don't know if it was number, if it was length of years, whatever. There was a point in that contract they were not ready to go above. There was another team that was willing to go, at least, again, I'm just throwing the numbers out, $10 million more. And maybe 1 year, who knows? But I always tell people, until you're the one holding that pen and you got a contract in front of you and all you got to do is sign it for that extra cash, it's hard to turn down.
Yeah, he's not going to turn down anything. He shouldn't, and he didn't. So, yeah, I think rich people stay rich by always taking the most money possible. So the only thing that shocked me, like really floored me, was what the Bucks did to get him. It's not that he left. I mean, I felt like that was a possibility, a slim possibility. And honestly, we might be sitting here right now, if the Bucks don't make this move, still saying, well, what's going on with the Pacers and Myles Turner? Because in theory, there were no other teams that could create enough cap space to get him without doing something this drastic. I mean, this is the most guaranteed money that someone has ever essentially bought someone out for. Now, I know it's not the same thing as a buyout, but essentially the same thing because you're going to pay him all of his money and tell him to leave.
Damian Lillard.
Lillard, that is. I mean, he had $112 million guaranteed over the next 2 years. Now, the context there with him is if he doesn't tear his Achilles, does that change their math and what they want to do? Because he most likely will not play next year either in comparison to Tyrese Halliburton and also Jason Tatum. So I get all of that, but the maneuver that the Bucks front office did, they were like, we're willing to take on $22 million every year for the next 5 years. Basically, the Bobby Bonilla, light special. I know yesterday was Bobby Bonilla Day. He got his $1.1 million from the Mets again. Still got 10 more years for that. But my thing is, one, how does Giannis feel about the situation? And I don't know if he feels great about it, if he feels good about it, or if he feels mad about it. But two, is that enough to even make them better? That's my biggest thing, too. Like, I think that Myles Turner is probably an upgrade from Brook Lopez at this point in their careers. But on paper, this does not scream to me, oh, my gosh, the Bucks are right back in this thing. Like, when I look at the Denver Nuggets moves, I'm like, oh, man, like, they're going to be right back in the mix with the best player in the world, I believe, in Nikola Jokic to contend for a title next season. With the Bucks, I do not feel that way. I don't know if they're closer to a championship than they were yesterday after making this move for Myles Turner.
Got this email from Luke last night. He goes, Kevin, a clear message was just sent to Tyrese Halliburton and any potential superstar that the Simon family is not willing to spend money to win a title or build the dominant team. If this city doesn't want to embrace mediocrity and see a potential Hall of Fame player leave, not get a title, fans should be questioning the Simon family's stewardship of the Pacers.
See, I feel it's a lot more complicated than that. I think if Tyrese Halliburton is healthy, they probably do start to go into that luxury tax. But at the time that this all takes place, you don't have your best player. You're not going to have him for at least a year. You have now, even though he's beloved, an aging guy in Myles Turner that you're saying to yourself, okay, what's this going to look like for us 3 to 4 years from now? And I think that they're going to see how Tyrese comes back, and I think they'll probably go about the business of trying to reload around him at that point in time. That's what it feels like to me. I could be completely wrong, but that's how I read the situation right now.
Yeah, I get where Luke's coming from. Obviously, the Simons, from a luxury tax standpoint, the Pacers are one of the very few teams not to have dipped their toes into it over the last 20 years. So there's plenty of precedent on that side of it. Yeah, Jeff, I probably am agreeing with where you're coming from in that. I don't view it necessarily in that light. I think everything changed the moment he went down. Everything changed the moment Halliburton went down. And, I tried to have this conversation early last week of like, guys, when we have heard the Simons, very rarely, but when they have talked publicly about going in the luxury tax, they've made it very clear. We are not doing it unless the championship window is open. And the new luxury tax rules have created more restrictions. It's not just simply you're paying $1.50 compared to $1. Now you have restrictions on what you can do roster move-wise.
Some people are saying,
sending cash via trades. A lot of mechanisms the Pacers have used to get to this point. The Pacers have done an exceptional job at other moves, not just, hey, we'll pay you top dollar in free agency. And if you get into the tax, now you're a little handcuffed with some of those areas. So I think they are looking at this and saying, all right, Tyrese Halliburton's 25 years old. The window with Halliburton has been closed for age 26. It's going to be hard to open up that window at age 27. Now our thinking becomes this. What can we do to age 27, 28, 29, reopen that window? And I think they said, here's the hard line on Myles Turner. We're not going over that. And if we don't, now that means, all right, in 2 years, what does Siakam have left? Where's the growth from Mathurin? Where's the growth from Walker? I think at times I forget that Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith are still 25 years old. Mm-hmm. Is there anything more that they can tap into from a individual play standpoint? And then if this Pacers season is not going to be one that has a lot of success, you're looking at what? A top 20, top 10 pick? You add that also into the mix, and now you just have a little bit more flexibility to try and add. You got worse if you're going to go play a basketball game tomorrow, but right now, given Halliburton's status, is that really the top goal? Or is the goal to say, hey, Tyrese, when you come back, can we have a better basketball team around you than we do as you're hobbling around on July 2nd?
So here's my thing, though, in response to that, Kevin. You need to be telling him or laying out to him that we will have a better basketball team. That's the biggest thing.
Right.
I mean, you
and
told
right
him,
now, the answers are obviously not there.
Yeah, right. But
Which makes it difficult, I think, for fans to process this right now.
Yes, and I think it makes it difficult for Tyrese to a certain extent.
Yes.
I'm not going to speak for the man, but
he did have a tweet last night. Did you see it?
I saw his tweet about the fever. I did not see.
That was it.
Yeah.
I got very excited when I saw a Tyrese Halliburton tweet.
You got me excited for a second there.
And then it was just about the fever.
Yeah, I was thinking he is not going to touch anything as far as his team's decisions on social media.
Do you
But
think Myles texted him?
I mean, I don't know for sure, but I would think that, if he hasn't talked to him, they will. There's going to be some mutual respect there.
I mean, there can't be any. Is there ill will towards Myles Turner?
No.
Am I missing something here?
No, I'm not saying that.
No.
I'm just wondering. I'm just curious if, hey, heads up, this is going to be announced pretty quickly here. I'm going to go to Milwaukee. Something like that.
Got it.
I don't know if I'm sending that text. If I'm leaving you guys for more money elsewhere, I might table that conversation.
I'm taking notes every time
after it
James
goes
starts
out.
talking about this stuff. I'm just taking some notes here, man.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm just like Myles. If someone wants to head and give me a very significant raise, I'll be gone tomorrow. But no, in all seriousness, I think with Tyrese, you have to explain to him, and I know you can't see the future right now, but you have to have, I don't know, some sort of PowerPoint put together saying this is what we think we can do until you come back or when you come back. Because in theory, in his mind, to a certain degree, he has to be thinking, man, all I needed was, 1 year to get right. And if, we can hold off for 1 year, do we run it back with the same group and have another opportunity to get back to the championship? You basically said no. And so because of that, which is fine, like, luxury tax and all those things are certainly real factors. But what's the next step? Because when he does come back healthy, if you haven't figured out what's going on at big man, if you haven't figured out potentially how to get another star in here to help him, then what? And I know people keep saying, like, oh, Tyrese, they love his style of play. They're going to come to Indiana and play with him. Are you sure? We say that all the time. Like, people love to play with this point guard, and, it's Indiana. It's, not expensive other cities. They still don't come here in free agency. They get traded here. So let's just keep the full context of all that. So I'm very curious to see how things check out.
I want to stress this, and I know brought up to start the show, but for those that weren't locked in at 7:05, I used the word, I was surprised, not stunned, not shocked. This was not that for me, because I thought when Rick Carlisle spoke to us 8 days ago, I walked away from that hearing, yeah, we would like him back, but it was nowhere near as demonstratively clear as Pascal Siakam's affinity Carlisle expressed to us a year ago. Mark, you went back and played some of that audio during the break. I mean, you found yourself, right, listening to it saying, wow, he talks about Siakam in a little different light than he talks about Turner.
And it was almost kind of like eerie because the way he was talking, like if you didn't know it was from like over a year ago talking about Siakam, like saying like they didn't want him to get scooped up by someone else and they had to do their due diligence. It's just like, it's kind of eerie almost because it seems like he's talking about Turner, but he's talking about Siakam, but it was a year earlier. But it was just very weird.
Yeah, I mean, the analogy, I guess, is a little bit, and I don't know, I probably won't go down the golf road again, but let's go with a restaurant analogy. Carlisle's talking about it like, hey, Jeff's inviting all of us to Harry and Izzy's after lunch, whereas when he talks about Turner, Jeff's inviting all of us to Steak and Shake. Trust me, I would be totally content with Steak and Shake. It's good food.
Writing that down, too.
I like it, but it ain't Harry and Izzy's. And I just think there was a level of, yes, again, I'm reading body language, I'm reading tone, but it was two very different descriptions of Siakam. It was, we will go to the nth degree to keep this guy. We're going to Orlando, taking him out to dinner. We're going to recruit him. He brought up a Dirk Nowitzki analogy from his Dallas days of, no, we can't afford to take any risks here. Whereas the Turner one was just more subdued. Just more of, well, yeah, we would like him back. We'll have to see what the numbers are and all of that. And again, I just think everything changed the moment Halliburton. I think they had every intention of going in the tax until Halliburton went down.
The Siakam discussion, he even says, like, about the Dirk conversation, he's like, fans just assume, like, oh, he's got a good relationship with the owner. He's got this, he'll just be back. And he's like, no, you have to do your homework and you have to make sure you are trying to recruit him to return. It's like, yeah. And then it's kind of like a foreshadowing of what they did or didn't do for Myles Turner.
Luke brings up a good point here. Luke goes, I wasn't surprised at all Turner moved on. I was shocked, though, it was Milwaukee. I think
that's the part.
That's what I did not see
how
coming.
the
I
Bucks
agree with him 100%.
got him is probably the most shocking aspect to it all.
That is wild.
And again, they are paying Damian Lillard how much money to send him away?
About $22 million a year for the next 5 years.
One more time.
$22 million of dead cap money. That's max player money for the next 5 years to say, we don't want you here. We'd rather get somebody else in here, but we'll just give you all your money up front.
That's the crazy part. They're still, despite the fact that they're stretching that out, they're still paying against the cap over $20 million a year for the next 5 years.
For Myles Turner. I mean, like, nice player.
And that's the other part.
But
I'm like,
Myles
did they
Turner.
get better?
Yeah.
Are they better with Myles Turner than they were? Because I saw the rest of their projected starting five for the upcoming season, and it is Myles Turner, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and guys that you think probably should not belong.
Kuzma, Kevin Porter Jr., the same guys we saw in the playoffs.
And they looked awful. So, wow. But I will say, to Milwaukee's credit, they have done some crazy things. Even to get Damian Lillard, they had to get rid of Drew Holiday up to win a championship. Right. They've shipped out, Chris Middleton. They bring in Kyle Kuzma, get younger. They've done a bunch of different things. I don't know if it's going to work, but they've done a lot of things to try to keep their star happy. So I do respect it from that aspect.
The Larry O'Brien trophy, who tweets quite a bit, says Myles was more nostalgic than impactful. His two threes and 2 blocks every other game, not worth what he lacks. Imagine Ty, Nembhard, TJ running the break or pick and roll with a prime Drummond or DJ or DeAndre Jordan. Big screen setter that dunks on everyone, 15 points, 15 rebounds kind of guy. I don't know if there's a bunch of those guys out there.
Who is this?
This is it's Larry O'Brien with a picture of the Larry O'Brien trophy.
Oh, this is a troll account.
This is just but actually has some, legitimate
thoughts.
Oh,
yeah,
and
no, I'm just saying,
stuff.
because a lot of these trophies and, stuff, they have actual official accounts, and I was like, wait, what? Like, he didn't win a championship?
So my point being is,
the problem is 15 and 15 is not just sitting out there right now.
Right, and what are you going to pay for 15 and 15?
So that's where I think is kind of as we do turn the page on this, it's what does center look like next year? Again, what does center look like, a couple of years down the road? I mean, I said to you guys the morning of the draft last week, I was like, Ryan Kalkbrenner was a name I brought up quite often out of Creighton. Now, he went to Charlotte a few more picks prior to you, but it's like, okay, do you need to start exploring some of these other center avenues just in case? Even if you do bring back Turner, your backup depth is still in question. We'll see about Isaiah Jackson. He's a restricted free agent.
The Achilles, right?
So it's not a guarantee, but, we'll see where he's at. And Isaiah Jackson stylistically is much different than Myles Turner. So, yes, you could very well have a center that is new look, maybe more of an old school look. Honestly, Turner's kind of a new age center in terms of the ability to stretch the floor. Maybe you do get more of the rebounder in there, more of the defensive presence on the ball versus Turner being more of an off the ball guy. So that will be something that remains to be seen. And that's now the biggest question, because on paper, the free agency market at center, again, it's very barren. Do you pivot with a trade? How it looks at center, I think, is just a huge unknown right now.
All right. We'll talk all the stuff with you guys, 239-1070, about Myles Turner and the future of the Indiana Pacers throughout the morning here. KB, there was a video that came out, I'm sure you're aware of it by now, of Anthony Richardson throwing the football to some kids within the last 2 days. And somebody asked him about that. He looked very fluid. It looked like the motion was correct and everything. And he said he's feeling better and should be full go by camp.
Yeah, I mean,
thoughts on that?
I mean, I saw the video. I think throwing is probably a very loose term. I'd call
it. Well, the fact that he was doing anything, given what we've known, I think was a shock to us.
Lob to the 8-year-old kid, and not trying to Peyton Manning Saturday Night Live the kid. Yeah, great.
But I think it was the statement that he expects to be full go was the statement.
Sure.
That really is the story.
All of it comes down to, all right, what happens when practice starts? Because, we've had a training camp schedule announced. They practice Wednesday. 3 weeks from today, they'll practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's 4 straight days of practice to lead off camp. All right, how does that arm feel on Friday? How does that arm feel on Saturday of that first week of camp? That, to me, is where you get the bigger questions into this, because Richardson is going to have to be back and throwing right away, in my opinion. If this is going to be a real competition, he's going to have to throw right away. And then there is that ramp-up period that they've talked about If he can get done with that or get through that within the first handful of days at Grand Park, then I think he could be back into a quarterback competition. But if this thing lingers at all into late July, no, it's Daniel Jones 1,000% week one.
And I think visually the thing that was striking to me is, yes, it was he was lobbing the ball, an 8-year-old kid, but you would think a guy that's going through what we thought he was going through with the shoulder wouldn't even be doing something like that. I guess that was the thing that surprised me just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
you wouldn't be thinking, if you're really worried about rehabbing your shoulder and doing stuff, maybe some just casual stuff with a bunch of kids is probably not the best way to go about it.
I mean, he's Tyrese Halliburton shooting a free throw when he had his calf injury. Well, that's one thing. It's different than Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And how are you cutting?
You bring that up, and I was reminded I was going down an NBA rabbit hole the other night on YouTube. Remember when Kobe tore his Achilles? I completely forgot that after he tore the Achilles, he stood up and hit 2 free throws before he then walked himself off the floor rather than be wheeled out.
A very, very Kobe moment.
I mean, if that's not Kobe and the killer Kobe, is that not just tell you everything you needed to know about that kid?
Yeah, I mean, he is one of the greatest ever for a reason.
Do we like this analogy from John here?
What do you say?
For the Pacers, Myles Turner was like a friend crashing on your couch for a while and suddenly saying, I've got to go. And you think, well, you didn't contribute that much, especially in Game 7, so it's nice having you here, but good luck.
I think that's a little harsh.
Is that harsh?
I think it's a little harsh. And the reason why I say that is because the Pacers, and I will
maybe you bought some gas station snacks one night and you're overlooking
but
that.
I will die on this hill. They had a 0% chance of getting to the finals without Myles Turner. So I understand that he was poor in the finals. He had some poor games, I believe, against the Knicks as well. But in totality, the start of this regular season to the end of the finals, they don't get to that stage without him. And I think people are kind of discrediting him for that because of how bad the finals went.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. I think, yes, again, I use the phrase, and I don't love the phrase, but like the good soldier earlier, I mean, he was a quality, important piece.
Yeah.
So you getting to the furthest you've ever been as a franchise. At the same time, given your Halliburton injury, I get why business became business. I totally understand why Myles Turner is no longer an Indiana Pacer, even with the uncertainty of like, okay, what's center really going to look like? I get that. It's just the harsh nature to what happened a week ago Sunday night in Oklahoma City outside of losing the game.
All right, coming up in a moment, we'll take some of your thoughts and phone calls, 239-1070. Where do the Pacers go from here? And we'll also talk to Scott Agnes coming up at 9 o'clock this morning. We had a special guest coming in the studio later on today, KB.
Yeah, I believe Tyrone Tracy going to join us. Great first year in the NFL with the New York Giants, of course, the Hawk from Decatur Central. And played collegiately at Purdue and Iowa. So he will join us, I think, to close out the show today.
It'll be a lot of fun. Stay with us. It's the Fan Morning Show at 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Along with Kevin Bowen and my man over here, James Boyd. We got Mark Dykton on the other side of the table here. I'm Jeff Rickard. Welcome in. We've been talking about the Indiana Pacers and Myles Turner bolting for the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll continue to talk about that throughout the morning. But in the meantime, guys, we are now officially 3 weeks from today away from seeing Colts on the field starting to practice a little bit. And so we thought I would turn our gaze towards that direction right now. Mike Jones covers the National Football League and the Colts at The Athletic, and he joins us now on the Payless Liquors hotline this morning. Good morning, Mike. How's the summer treating you so far? You ready for some football?
It's going by a little too fast. I need just to slow down a little bit, just so I have some time to catch my breath and, get ready for all the insanity. But it's going to be here before we know it.
Mike, I know you did a recent piece in The Athletic, highlighting your winners and losers of the offseason. The Colts were not included in this piece, but I do want to get your thoughts on where you stand on them, particularly when it comes to quarterback. Anthony Richardson says he's going to be a full go for training camp, but he was shut down during the spring due to some shoulder soreness, and Daniel Jones is here, of course. So how do you view the offseason and what the Colts have done and what they potentially could do in this upcoming season?
Yeah, I think that, if you're just talking about the quarterback position, it's been a weird and kind of confusing, maybe a little bit unsettling offseason for them. You were hoping that Anthony Richardson could get some good work in during the offseason program and try to take some steps towards developing the much-needed consistency. Obviously, he's got great physical ability, but inconsistencies really hurt him. And then, as the old saying goes, in football circles, the best ability is availability. And he was not able to be on the field, this shoulder, soreness popping up. And so you just wonder, okay, is he ever going to be able to be fully healthy, or is he going to be one of those guys that is always banged up and never able to live up to his full potential? So for the Colts, rather than seeing Anthony Richardson get a lot of work and maybe the groundwork for a quarterback competition, it was about Daniel Jones getting those reps with the first team and maybe getting a leg up for Anthony Richardson heading into training camp.
So I've had to ask you today, Mike, who starts week 1 for the Colts? Who do you think it will be?
I guess I got to say Daniel Jones, because we just don't know if Anthony Richardson is going to be healthy or not. If he's healthy, you would think maybe they would give him a shot because he is the guy that's coming back. He's the guy that they invested that early draft pick in a couple years ago. And Daniel Jones is a guy that they kind of brought in as an experimental insurance policy. So if Richardson's healthy, then, you would give him a shot, and probably with a short leash, though. But if he's not able to get on the field or able to stay on the field, then it winds up being Daniel Jones' job.
Mike Jones from The Athletic here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Mike, we appreciate the time. Let's stick kind of in Colts world for a second, but expand it to the AFC South. How open do you view the division, or do you look at this as, once again, C.J. Stroud and the Texans being the clear and obvious favorite?
I think that they have to have a little bit of a edge on everybody else because, they've got the young quarterback. They've got really good pieces on defense. The big question about them is their offensive line, which they did a good amount of retooling this offseason. Now, is it going to be enough to improve? Because, look, they had Laramie Tunsil, who is one of the best left tackles in football, but they still gave up second most sacks of anybody. So now they've kind of, gotten some guys through free agency, and we'll see if those guys, even though you got rid of your top left tackle, maybe you're able to devote those resources to helping improve across the board. We'll see. But then after that, you really have some question marks, but the opportunity. Jacksonville, they have a guy in Trevor Lawrence. He has not had the stability and consistency at head coach and play caller for him to really live up to his potential. They've got some talented pieces at running back and wide receiver. They have some pieces on defense. Just things have not been able to come together for them. Could Liam Cohen, the young first-time head coach, and his staff get them to bounce back quickly? I think if anybody really threatens the Texans, they might have the best chance. Obviously, it takes a little while for a first-time head coach to really get his bearings and things like that, but they have a lot of pieces that would give them an opportunity to. And, then, again, we'll see what happens with the quarterback position with Indianapolis. They've gotten some more guys to help their defense. They have a new defensive coordinator, so that might take a little bit of time, but that's what training camp and the preseason's for. But, again, the most important position is the huge question marks. And then I think just bringing up the rear is Tennessee because they are still in the middle of retooling, overhauling, which seems like a continual thing for them.
Mike, last we all remember this. It was a nightmare. The defense completely fell apart in that loss to the New York Giants last year, and that precipitated a change at defensive coordinator. Lou Anarumo comes in. What kind of a difference can a coordinator make right out of the gate?
Well, I mean, if you kind of had a guy that maybe things had gotten stale, maybe the message or the methods, maybe he wasn't able to adapt enough and needed a fresh approach, a new set of eyes, a new philosophy, a new energy could be, good for a defense. It could, kind of jumpstart things, reignite things. Obviously, they got some guys like, Charvarius Ward, and he has been going to be a big piece in their secondary. We'll see, what they have as far as pass rushing and guys really fitting into Lou's system. I would think that he's not starting from scratch. So you would think that maybe they have a chance to, kind of buy in and bounce back. But again, sometimes we see when you have a change and a guy has kind of got his mind made up and he struggles to get pieces to fit into his system, that's what we're going to see. It's going to be about flexibility, both on the coach's part and on the player's part as they try to figure out the best way to attack and use the pieces that he's got.
Got Mike Jones on the Pale Slickers hotline joining us. And again, thanks for waking up and hopping on the show, Mike. I do want to pivot to the rookie class that the Colts brought in, just headlined by Tyler Warren. And we've talked for years about, just how they haven't had a tight end really in Indianapolis, and how much can a tight end help your quarterback play, whether it is Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson, just having someone who can consistently give you some targets over the middle.
Yeah, no, a really good tight end, as we've seen, in Indianapolis, in Kansas City, in San Francisco, in Philadelphia, a lot of those places, they've got a really good tight end. That is your quarterback's best friend. He is a safety valve. He's a guy that can win, like you said, some of those routes over the middle, use that athleticism to win matchups with linebackers and safeties. And so, yeah, if you finally have that answer at tight end, it really can do something to open up the middle of the field. And then also you have some quick check downs and things like that to get the ball out of your quarterback's hands to try to beat the pass rush. It's just a very important piece, an underrated piece. But again, if you look at all the good offenses, it seems like they always manage to have a good tight end. So maybe this is a piece that Indianapolis has been looking for that they finally have an answer at.
Mike, go have a good summer. We'll talk to you soon as football approaches, and appreciate your time again this morning. And just go have fun and stay out of the sun and don't get sunburned. That's all I can say. That's all I got for you.
All right. Thanks for having me.
There you go. Maybe go into the sun, KB, but make sure you take plenty of sunscreen with you. Right?
I think I got windburn. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Gosh, I feel like my nose is peeling.
Somebody in the chat says that was a humble brag by Kevin, saying he's playing the same golf course that Roger Goodell's on.
I'm telling you, they're buddies. They're buddies.
Well, he's one up to me. My only story like that.
Some might say Roger's a peasant for playing a public golf course.
I mean,
it was a nice golf course, though, right? I mean,
we're going to find out that Maddie's uncle is Roger Goodell or something like that.
No, you one up me. My only story close to that is one time I was playing near at a public golf course near where my parents were living at the time, and right behind me, back in the height of his career, Jim Courier, the tennis player, was playing behind me. That was it. But I think Roger Goodell trumps that.
Yeah. Hey, looked like he had a decent swing.
Yeah. He probably gets some time. I wonder if he only gets to play 8 or 9 holes at a time, given his schedule.
Yeah. I think I want to say the Ramsey-Minka Fitzpatrick trade happened like 2 minutes after I actually saw him out there. So
speaking of golf,
it's quiet time in the NFL.
Coming up August 7th, it'll be the fan golf outing We're teaming up with a wonderful foundation right here. It's a great chance to come out and have fun with all of us, but really make a difference within the community, which is what we try to do. It's not just about golf. We're going to get together with Franciscan Foundation. They've made a tremendous impact on the community, but they need help too, and we're there to help them. And it doesn't matter if you're a seasoned golfer like Kevin. What was your best score, by the way?
Boy, the scores are high out there.
Were they? Because of the wind, probably, right?
Yeah. Might have had one in the 70s, maybe two.
Tough, isn't it? I only had one score in the 70s on my trip. But no, Kevin knows what he's doing. Go have fun with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. August the 7th. It's a Thursday, 10 a.m. Maybe kick off, one more fun thing to do in the summer there. But Thursday, August 7th at the Legends Golf Club. Again, Franciscan Foundation is the beneficiary. Go to 1075thefan.com. Get registered today. They're starting to fill up now. It started to pick up some momentum since the Pacer season ended. 1075thefan.com and get your clubs ready and join us for a tremendous day there.
I had a game in the 70s before, and then we hit the back nine afterwards.
I saw a guy on YouTube the other day saying it's my month-long quest to break my all-time record of 62. And so he shows this incredible hole that he's playing on, and he has a great drive, and it's a par 5, and he has a great approach shot, and he misses the eagle putt, but he makes the birdie, and I did it! I finally did it! It's a 61! And then I had to play the last 3 holes.
Yeah. Walking to the 13th tee there. How much do you think Pacers fans mad about Myles Turner gone is because Myles Turner the human?
That's, again, when I talk about it was a little bit of shock to the system, I get all the basketball stuff. I've been doing this. I get it all. I understand. Am I shocked? No. Was I shocked it was the Bucks? Yes. But it's just, you get this kind of comfort, right? Myles has been here for so long. You see him leading the Indy cheers and all those kinds of things. I just felt like there was going to be a way to bring him back. But I get it, and I can't wait to see how it all shakes out and we learn the ins and outs and the details of it as time goes by. But, yeah, they're going to miss the young man. He was great to have here.
So you do think that's a big part of it?
I think it's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
what
also
complicates
curious
things.
how many of the people that actually didn't want him to come back, like, we don't want Myles Turner. Are you pissed now that he went to the Bucks? Like, is there that factor too? Where I didn't want him back. I don't want him going to Milwaukee. Like, I'm curious how many people feel that way.
I just don't know if the Bucks got any better. I'm confused with the Bucks right now. I guess this is the desperation you have to have when Giannis is flirting. I mean, you have to do anything.
But I don't know that Giannis was thrilled necessarily, was he?
I want to put a mic in front of all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
And give them truth serum. Like, tell them they're under oath and give me the real thought. Because the other factor that we haven't really thought of is there a real possibility that Myles wanted to change the scenery? Like, there's always that factor. I assumed, I can't speak for everybody else, I assumed he wanted to be back. But part of him could have been like, you know what? Hey, I want to go somewhere where I can, get a long-term deal and perhaps get a change of scenery and play with one of the best players of all time. So that is certainly something to consider. So, we won't get the full answers to a lot of these questions probably forever, when it comes to just how truly people felt. But we will get some additional context, I think, in the coming months.
My brother, who's a Bucks fan, I was sending him like the news about Myles Turner and then the waving of Damian Lillard and all that. And he's like, this is a very confusing day for Bucks fans. I'm like, yeah, I don't know how they really feel about it either, because they're like, I like Myles Turner, but I also would have liked it a lot better if it was Myles Turner, Giannis, and Dame. And now it's not that. So it's kind of weird. Like, did we get better, or are we just kind of running in place right now?
Yeah. We had talked about this yesterday, Kevin, James and I just wonder now, when you look back at that piece that Myles had written in the Players Tribune, was that his goodbye letter? Do you think he just thought, I'm open to change? I don't know if I'm going to, but just in case, I just want to let everybody know how much I've enjoyed my time here.
Yeah, it's hindsight obviously super 2020. I think it's a fair point to bring up. I don't think so, but again, to James's point, until we get true serum in front of all these people, for the most part, Myles is pretty forthcoming.
Yeah.
So I think there will hopefully be a time and place where we do hear that from Myles. I would argue the Pacers benefited Myles. The Pacers with Tyrese Halliburton benefited Myles pretty damn well.
100%.
I think he played some of the best basketball of his career, arguably the best, when he was alongside Ty. And, that to me, I think is just the jarring nature of it all. It's like less than a month ago, you are having Myles Turner on the mic less than 10 days ago, They're playing for an NBA title. And now this is the reality of where you are at. And I think so much of it is rooted in Tyrese Halliburton's injury. I mean, I don't think it's that far-fetched to say if Tyrese Halliburton doesn't go down, Myles Turner's back.
I think that's
but
way more
There
likely.
is a little bird on the other shoulder that says, Kevin, remember, and I brought this up a couple of different times throughout the regular season, late in the regular season into that playoff run, Jake, noon to 3, had Steven Simon on the show. And Jake asked, I thought, some very direct questions about will you or are you willing to go in the luxury tax to retain Myles Turner and, those sorts of questions. And every time I heard Steve Simon's answer, it sounded like me asking Rosie Bowen, hey, Rosie, you want to jump in the deep end? She says yes, but then she walks over to the deep end and she quickly realizes, yeah, I'm going to go back over there to the shallow end and jump in. That's what it sounded like to me. Of like, yeah, we want to retain Myles. We love Myles, blah, 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 this and that. But it never got 2 feet into the old water there. And I think when I heard that, when I heard Rick Carlisle last Tuesday, it just, some tentacles went up for me. And I just thought to myself, you know what? I don't know if this is as big of an Obi Toppin breakaway slam dunk as it might seem. And again, the Halliburton injury had a ton to do with it.
What do you think this roster looks like next year?
I mean, do you pair somebody to get, do you pair like I guess how significantly are you trying to maintain a quality presence at center? Or are you just kind of going to go with the JV version of Turner at center? That, I think, is the unknown for me. Of right now in free agency, there's nobody out there you would consider, I guess, DeAndre Ayton. And again, stylistically, he's much different than where Myles is at. Someone mentioned, to me yesterday, what about, a guy like Walker Kessler from Utah? The Pacers have done this where they have found lottery pick type players that have not worked out at their previous stop. Aaron Nesmith, probably the poster child of it. Obi Toppin would be one that you would also throw in there. Obviously, Tyrese is in a different stratosphere. And then brought them here and seen what can happen there. So I wouldn't guess, James, like a whole lot of different pieces, but obviously I don't think Tony Bradley's your starting center. I don't think is Isaiah Jackson your starting center after coming off a torn Achilles?
Yeah, that's where it gets a little spooky. But when we talk about Walker Kessler and potentially trading for someone else, that's where I'm like, okay, well, if you didn't pay Myles, then why would you give up assets this season to go get someone as opposed to holding off for a year, Tyrese gets healthy, and then you figure out from there, how do we use our assets and our money now to go get someone we have a clear path forward. So they will, in my opinion, take a significant step back at center. But like you said earlier in the show, I believe in the first hour, Kevin, take 1 step back now, 2 steps forward later. And maybe that is the thinking. I think that is the thinking of this Pacers franchise.
And I think there is a very harsh reality of, let's say you would have given Turner north of $100 million. You're paying Siakam, what, 200, nearly $200 million? There are not championship teams in recent NBA history that have been paying 30-year-old plus guys at the 4 and 5 making that type of money. So
that's
I
fair.
think
that's a fair assessment.
Is part of the hardcore reality. Again, the answers aren't obvious right now, and they're not very clear. And on paper, we don't have even there's not like this, oh, that's option A, okay, that makes sense. That's option B, that makes sense. Those aren't there right now. And I think that's very difficult for even myself to realize, particularly fans. But there is a little part of me, it's like, has Kevin Pritchard earned our trust?
All he's been able to do is every couple of years build a competitive team, and in this case, the latest iteration was a tremendous team, and we thought, had Paul George stayed, that team was going to be in contention for a while too. So I do think he's demonstrated multiple times the ability to bring this franchise up, and I do think he gets a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but the next couple of weeks is going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, Adam says this. The question is, are the Pacers trying to win next year or just playing out this season until you get Ty back? I think that's pretty obvious. They have said, and again, I get this. You have said, we are trying to make sure that when he gets back and healthy, we have some pieces in place, but we definitely have some flexibility in our back pocket to make different moves as we see fit.
Right.
Versus simply running it back with this core in 2 years. If you would have gone in the tax with Turner, that's what you would have done. This is the group, and you hope in 2 years, everybody's still at an adequate level of basketball, and you can get on a run. They have said, nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep some of the core together, a lot of the core together, and then we hope Matherin develops, Walker develops, Nembhard and Neesmith are 25 years old, a top, 10 or 20 pick next year. That is how they will now retool things for Tyrese Halliburton's return.
All right, let's check things down and get you updated on everything you need to know heading into your day.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We've been talking about it all morning. We'll continue to talk about it throughout the day. Myles Turner leaves the Indiana Pacers in free agency, signs a 4-year, $107 million reported deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. James, it can't become official for a few days yet, but Myles Turner and the Turner block gone.
Yeah, it is, certainly a unique development that not only that he leaves, but he goes to the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks used a very unique scenario to waive Damian Lillard, stretch his contract, his remaining guaranteed money over the next 5 years, going to pay him $22 million in dead cap over the next 5 years to bring in Myles Turner.
That leaves a void certainly for the Indiana Pacers at center, and I guess, Kevin, we'll just have to wait and see what the next week to 10 days bring us.
Yeah, the unknown is certainly there right now. And, I'm curious just how much of this was thought about before the injury. How much did they foresee, hey, what if some team swoops in here and offers Myles all this big money? But the Pacers have been a team that has done a nice job of kind of clinging on to some fringe deals before. Can you find teams that realize, oh boy, financially, we're not in a great spot? Can they nab a center via that route? I think that's probably what I'm looking at here right now.
All right, let's check out some of the other moves in the NBA in free agency yesterday. Duncan Robinson leaves Miami. He goes now to the Detroit Pistons on a 3-year, $48 million deal. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a 4-year, $285 million max contract, and the last year is going to be worth about $80 million, James.
That's nearly $1 million a game. I was watching TikTok video yesterday, and the guy was saying, if I got paid that much money and I get a call and someone's robbed my house, whatever, I just cry at the free throw line and get my money.
That's how that works. All right, last night, Commissioner's Cup in the WNBA, the Indiana Fever come up victorious despite missing Caitlin Clark, a 74-59 win over the Minnesota Lynx after falling behind early in the game. They just dominated James Boyd.
Yes, I thought that they played outstanding defense, and honestly, that's what they've been missing. I feel like their offense with Caitlin Clark, without Caitlin Clark, has been, pretty solid. They've been able to score the ball. It's can you stop anybody? And last night they had the Minnesota Lynx, who, by the way, have Neficia Collier. They have a laden team. They were able to make life miserable for them, especially in the second half.
Yeah, and the keys to the game last night brought to you by Hubler Automotive Group. As always, Hubler's got you covered for 200,000 miles. I thought that duo of Natasha Howard and Aaliyah Boston really stepped up inside last night.
Yeah, Natasha Howard told us before the season that her goal as an individual was to win MVP. And I was thinking, wow, she is out of her mind. But she won MVP last night in the Commissioner's Cup. So, Natasha Howard, I will eat my words, at least for a night.
All right, that's what's happening as far as the Indiana Fever are concerned. I will tell you they open up a 5-game homestand tomorrow night. Tough one. Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Golden State, Atlanta, Dallas. They've lost a game to each of those first 4 teams already, JB.
Yeah. And so now the clock just turns to when does Caitlin Clark come back? How does she feel over the next few days? And when she does come back, how do you sustain this level of defense, and how do you help her become more efficient? Because the turnovers and the shooting numbers have been very poor this season.
All right, so 74-59, they get the Commissioner's Cup trophy, and more importantly for that roster, they get to split $500,000 in prize money. Not a bad midseason pickup right there. You'd take that, wouldn't you, KB?
Hell yeah, I would. And honestly, for that roster, there are some players on that roster that is an uber significant amount of money. Said it in the first hour. It's the biggest Fever win in 9 years. I mean, for a franchise that hasn't won a playoff game in 9 years, and they celebrated. That was quite the scene there in that post-game locker room. So, again, without Caitlin Clark, defense getting it done. James, as you mentioned, I thought Sophie Cunningham big off the bench, and Aaliyah Boston facilitating. 6 assists for her. She's really underrated passer. as
She's
a post
so
player.
good.
Yeah. And then Tosh Howard was the MVP of the game, 16 points and 12 rebounds.
Very balanced, I thought.
Yeah.
I thought they could have probably
That was a
given
very Pacers-esque.
to a couple different people. Yeah, I would agree.
Major League Baseball, the St. Louis Cardinals might never score another run again. Sorry, Alex. Pittsburgh beat them 1-0 last night. That extends their scoreless game streak to 3. Cincinnati and Boston will have to pick it up at 2:30 this afternoon. Their game suspended in the top of the 4th by rain. The Red Sox leading by a score of 2-1. The Cubs finished off the Guardians, though, by a score of 5-2. Matthew Boyd, 7 innings, 2 runs, 5 hits. A lot going on right from the mound for the Cubs right now.
Boyd has been very good. He's been one of the best additions to baseball. I didn't know we were going to get in him, but he has been quite solid.
I feel very good about that Boyd guy.
I was going to say, I thought you meant
He's solid.
I was like,
Those Boyd boys.
James have a
they get it
distant
done.
cousin here?
Louisville Bats beat the Indianapolis Indians 12-5 in the International League yesterday. That was in Louisville. They'll play again tonight at 6:35. Anything else you guys want to throw in?
Shout out to the local product. He continues to have a really nice run in the NBA. Gary Harris, he signed with the Bucks. So, again, we've talked a lot about Milwaukee and some of those moves here this offseason. So that Gary Harris career is what? That's a decade plus right now. Continues to have a nice kind of rotational role. So the HSC guy will be playing here a little bit closer to home.
All right, and one final mention, too, this morning. If you want to be a part of the Fan Golf outing on August the 7th, go to 1075thefan.com today and sign up. We're going to benefit the Franciscan Foundation. Does such a great job playing at the Legends Golf Club on August the 7th, 10 a.m., shotgun start. Go to 1075thefan.com for more details. Sign up today. Those slots are starting to fill up. It's going to be a lot of fun, and all of us will be out there except for James, who's bailing on us to go cover the Ravens and Colts.
Bailing to do my job.
I hate when that happens. All right. Quick timeout. We'll talk more about all of it. Phone lines open, 239-1070. It's next here on a summer day, July the 2nd.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's Fan Morning Show. Hopefully you got to sleep in a little bit and you're just getting up right now. I envy those folks right now that can stay up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, James Boyd, and then just, get up at 8:30, 9 o'clock, something like that.
Hey,
I dig those folks. That's good stuff there.
Your level of sleep conversation
because I don't get any. It's because I never get any.
That is
so
true.
If I can get more than 5.5 or 5 hours of sleep a night, then I'm golden. But it never happens.
I need to see if they have the '90s game still available on store shelves. Don't Wake Daddy. I'm going to get that for a Christmas gift for you.
I always make this analogy to my family. Do you remember my cousin Vinny? And you remember that
I remember Marissa Tomei and my
yes,
cousin
everybody
Vinny,
remembers Marissa Tomei. But one of the little side gags, I guess, is that every single night, no matter where they tried to sleep, what hotel they went to, what Airbnb, whatever, they would be awakened by either it was a rooster in the morning or it was a train or it was something. That's how my household is. Every single night, something happens, whether it's the dog or one of the kids or my wife is packing for another trip. Or I don't know what it is, but it seems like something always wakes me up after I get to sleep. So yes,
CPAP machine. That's
I would love to go to sleep.
Sounds like
man.
real life. That's what that sounds like.
But while you were sleeping, if you didn't pay attention yesterday, the Pacers certainly continue to change their immediate course of operations, I would say, Kevin Bowen.
I got one gripe about the whole Turner thing.
I'm ready to fight you about this.
And
I might just get out of the way and let this happen.
I get for some fans out there, there's a sentimental gripe. Like, we had a listener reach out to me earlier in the show. It was like, this is the most sad I've been since Peyton Manning left. And I was like, whoa.
Okay, whoa. But in fairness,
I was like, explain more. And they're like, Myles Turner loved Indiana. That's not a guarantee with athletes. And I can kind of hear that out. Obviously, Peyton Manning and Myles Turner is, whatever, comparing, Jeff at golf to J.J. Spahn at Oakmont. So, those are two totally different scenarios. So I get there's more of a sentimental gripe that some fans have or disappointment, et cetera, et cetera. I'd say from a business side, though, and I get this would have been difficult and not as obvious, but when you are in a market like this and you're not just throwing poodles of cash at players and you're not going to live in the luxury tax, when you have quality players, losing quality players for nothing in return is difficult. I get that Milwaukee kind of swooped in here and did something. Honestly, Milwaukee probably kind of caught Indiana with their pants down. Of like, wait, you don't think we can pull this off? Watch this.
Because it's insane what they just did, by the way.
Correct. I still feel like if you are the Pacers, could you have backloaded a Myles Turner contract, which it looks like this Milwaukee deal is pretty backloaded.
Okay.
Could you have backloaded it and done a sign and trade? Because you clearly were okay with giving Turner some money, right? I mean, all these reports hover around 20 to 25 million annually. So you were fine with that. So if you could have said, all right, Myles, here is this sort of deal, explored the trade market for him, then either you are content with paying Myles Turner the amount of money that you clearly were content because you made some sort of an offer, and best case scenario, according to them, would have been then moving him and whatever asset that would have brought back, whatever draft pick, whatever player. That, I think, is my one real businessy gripe about it. You still have some flexibility given your situation right now, but you did not benefit enough from this deal for my liking.
As I think about it more, the sign and trade aspect of it is certainly something to consider. I just don't know what those conversations would look like. And no, for example, if you're saying, I'm not saying you, Kevin, in particular, but if you're saying in general, could you have, in theory, made a sign and trade with the Bucks? Like, if the Bucks really wanted them, could that have been something you explored? And would the Bucks be interested in doing something like that, considering the drastic measures they took to acquire him anyway? What does that look like? So, again, these are questions that we may never get real answers to, but I would like to know to what extent even a sign and trade possibility was out there. And in my mind, I would think that Myles Turner will be willing to sort of accept that or, work with them on that. I don't think that he would be so spiteful where it's like, I don't want to help you at all. Part of it would be like, well, either way, if I get my money, maybe we can work something out. So I think you're right there, Kevin, and I think you were right to kind of explain it in that manner, because when we say, like, just in general, oh, lost it for nothing, well, the implication there is like, well, you should have traded him before. Like, no. We're not saying trade him before the run. It's afterwards what, kind of darts are you looking at, throwing at the board to figure out, how to maximize your assets and your asset management. So, a missed target there for sure. But overall, like we talked about earlier throughout the show, I do think that, Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan, as of late, the last 3 years, they've sort of, at least in my opinion, bought some goodwill with me.
Yes.
For me to trust them.
That's fair.
It's just curious that as the Milwaukee Bucks continue to want to try to win while they've got Giannis Antetokounmpo and to keep him as well, the way they've gone about it in the last 48 hours is still mind-boggling to me. Like, I don't understand. Maybe there's some evil genius going on that I'm just missing right now, but I don't quite understand all these moves. The fact that you're going to keep dead money for Damian Lillard for 5 years.
Yeah,
the fact that you're bringing in a guy that's over 30.
Yeah, the whole Giannis thing is just odd. Like, did he want Turner? Did he not? I mean, I'd assume at this point in Giannis's career, he's got the leverage within that franchise to pretty much sign off on everything, or at least voice an opinion, give a nod of approval.
He's the greatest Bucks player ever. I know Kareem played for them, but in a Bucks uniform, but in a Bucks uniform, he's the best player.
He's one of the better NBA players we've seen.
Yeah,
so
fair.
It's head scratching. Honestly, tomorrow we should probably explore having a Bucks guest on, just to kind of get a little bit more of that idea behind it, because it's fascinating. And this is where, again, I think it's jarring from a Pacers fan standpoint. The heart probably hurts today, because again, 9 days ago you're playing for an NBA title, and since then your best players ripped his Achilles, and the longest tenured Pacer, one of the more, he's got a Turner's block and, the Players Tribune piece. And again, I hate the phrase, but like, he's been such a great, I think, employee, soldier, however you want to label it.
Good Samaritan.
Thank you. There's one more on it. And he goes to the Bucks. And if you want to talk about Turner's ending here, guys, he played 40 seconds in Game 4, the biggest game in franchise history. And he got benched.
Mm-hmm.
As Chet Holmgren is kicking your ass, really.
And maybe that should have told us everything we needed to know moving forward right then and there.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to overreact to one game, but
it speaks to the fact that
Turner's had some inconsistencies.
To Jeff's point, though, the entire finals, he was pretty bad.
Yes, he's had inconsistencies. There are reasons why. Again, I don't sit here and lose sleep over the business side of it from Turner, but James, as you pointed out very accurately earlier in the show, you are not playing in a Game 7 without Myles Turner. You are not at that point. As a franchise, especially given, Jackson tears his Achilles and Wiseman tears his Achilles early in the year. Turner actually had a pretty good year, I think, from a health standpoint.
Well, we heard all those threes in the intro that he was making during the playoffs.
Yeah,
really
the Cavs game, and I know the Knicks series is a little bit of a mixed bag there, but I think that's what is probably difficult for a lot of people to process is, by all accounts, Turner was, this is not Bobby Portis leaving the Bucks or, somebody that, had some ill will. It's a guy that was dangled on the trade market for years. And now this is how it all ends, and just the sudden nature to it all as well.
Yeah, I do want to throw this out there. One of our YouTube commenters, shout out to KBEA. I did forget about this. The Bucks were an apron team, so they couldn't do a sign and trade. So for Myles to go there, they had to do some extreme measures, which we saw, which makes a ton of sense now in full context. I was wondering, like, how the heck did you go here instead of doing a sign and trade, something less drastic than waving and stretching, which, again, this is probably the biggest wave and stretch we might see for quite some time. It's sort of unprecedented. And I mean, not for nothing, there are two Achilles tears at the center of all of this when it comes to the decisions that both teams made. Like, the Bucks are not doing this if they have a healthy Damian Lillard going into next season. Now, even if they move on from him, they're not waving and stretching him. And then you look at Tyrese Halliburton, obviously his Achilles. Perhaps you're, not moving on from Myles Turner. Perhaps you're going into the luxury tax if he's healthy enough to run it back and try to go after a title again next year. So it just goes to show how injuries affect team decisions and how, literally one false step can change your, entire franchise's course. And so we'll see how it all shakes out. But I think on the flip side, aside from like I said, the pettiness factor of the Bucks-Pacers games, I don't know how much better the Bucks are really after making this move. I think it shows them that they're willing to be aggressive for Giannis, But Giannis has to be thinking that maybe still isn't enough. I mean, who's your secondary star? I mean, I know the big threes have been phased out of the NBA, so to speak. But every team that is really good has a secondary star. The Pacers had 2 stars in Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton. Giannis and the Bucks have 1. There are no other stars on that roster, not even close. You know, Myles Turner is a good player. He's not close to being a star. So I don't know how he feels about everything going forward.
All right, coming up in a moment, Mark is a very curious young man. We know this. He's got questions. We'll have answers. It's I Gotta Know. Next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Got your Throwback Wednesday here, I guess, going on today, Mark. Forget Thursday. I like this one.
I don't know why Sean Paul came in my head, but I was like, I haven't heard this song in a while. Let's throw that out here and kind of throw everybody off.
Well,
what
there
about
you go.
Temperature?
Oh, that's a good one, too.
That is a good song.
Was it like the summer of 2008? Sean Paul was
Maybe we
everything.
end the show with that tomorrow.
Right.
Nothing says July 4th. Ramping up the temperature, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just picturing Kevin shaking his hips to that song.
Oh, yeah.
If I shake it, I might need a replacement.
So we do have some questions about this Speedo, by the way. I was getting questions.
I thought we had escaped the Speedo.
No. I was getting questions
Speedos
in the
are
YouTube
buried
chat
deep in the old
about
closet.
how, since the Fever won the Commissioner's Cup, is that enough to get the Speedo out?
Boy, you got to
before
draw
the
the line
holiday.
somewhere.
We're really lowering the bar here.
Yeah, again, we're talking world. These need to be saved for.
You just
world
called this the
championships.
biggest Fever win in the last 9 years.
Sure.
So I'm
Bring it
just
out.
asking for a little, will you be a man of the people?
I might need a 2-piece with everything that I ate this weekend. I might need something for the upper half, honestly, after the old trip out west.
I will say that, and I'm not somebody who watches what I eat a ton, but I do eat something green every day or every other day I try. But is this weekend coming up one of the weekends where all of you are just like, all right, no calories are being counted?
Yeah, the waistline when you get to Monday is probably at least a size or two bigger.
And there's no guilt in it, because I tell my dad every year, he's like, man, I got to watch what I'm like, yeah, but like after, the 4th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
And the
All
5th
right.
and the 6th.
In the meantime, less weighty issues than even the Speedo. I'm sure Mark Dykton, whatever is on your dark, twisted mind, is about to reveal itself, because he's got questions, we've got answers. It's I Gotta Know.
He's got questions.
How about a game?
They've got answers.
Hey, I'm more of a cornhole man myself.
Sports, music, movies.
What?
High fashion.
That Hansel's so hot right now.
And everything in between.
You ever seen a foot with 4 toes?
It's time to get a glimpse into the mind of Mark Dykton.
Stop it, you're scaring me.
It's time for I Gotta Know.
Okay, you punks, I want a good, clean fight. Let's get it on!
Well, this dark twisted mind, Jeff, is actually going to stay in the food realm because we're talking about State Fair, the Indiana State Fair coming soon. I got a email the other day saying, hey, State Fair's coming here. Here are some food options that are coming here. And I said, you know what? I'm going to throw these out to the guys and see what tickles their fancy. We're not counting calories, but these calories are going to climb with some of these offerings this year. So, 2025 Indiana State Fair. We've got the bacon honey bun burger. That is literally a burger patty between 2 honey buns.
Holy shnikes.
So we've got that going for us.
With bacon?
With bacon.
Say no more.
Mm-hmm.
We've got barbecue machos, which is nachos, mac and cheese, and barbecue beef all over that. So you got that going for you. We've got Brunch Mary, which is a Bloody Mary. But listen to this. A Brunch Mary, a meal in a glass, garnished with skewers tacked high with a mini sausage breakfast sandwich, fresh fruit kebabs, crispy bacon, fluffy donut holes, and a golden waffle stick. So it literally is a meal on a drink glass.
Send you to Methodist right now. After
Those
you've
last
had-
2.
Dear
Man,
Lord.
oh, man.
We've got
I've already spent way
I'm
too much
looking at
time there,
Kevin's
Kevin.
face, and it is getting like more and more concerned as you keep reading these.
we've got Butterfinger funnel cake, which is literally Butterfinger candy bars cut up on a funnel cake. Cinnamon toast cookie butter pretzel bites. Deep fried barbecue pork chop sandwich.
No, that actually, I might.
That sounds amazing,
I'm about to say, I
actually.
might,
Pickle fried Oreos, which is literally 2 golden Oreos and a
sounds
pickle
horrific.
in the middle instead of the cream.
That sounds absolutely horrific.
Oh, Lord. You do that, you don't love yourself.
Anything tickle your fancy. And we got the key lime pie
How do we get to
shake.
sit in on these meetings to decide
I
this
don't know.
stuff?
Man, oh, man.
Mark, I love the first 2. The bacon honey bun burger. And what was the name of the nachos?
Oh, barbecue machos.
That'll
Boy.
send you to Methodist right
Those
there,
sound-
that one.
Well, yeah, probably maybe for a night stay. Some of those other stuff, you'd be in there for a month.
What was the deep fried barbecue pork chop? Was that?
Yeah, the
was that-
barbecue pork chop sandwich. I'm actually like, I want to
Yeah,
try that one.
That
actually.
sounds reasonable, crazy enough, but reasonable enough for me to actually eat.
I think I like the brunch option.
You want the
Jeff.
The 5
stop.
things
No,
in the glass.
no,
Is that all in a drink, though? That's
It's
the
a
thing.
drink? It's a drink?
It's a Bloody Mary. No, it's got all the stuff on top of it, so it's on skewers.
Right.
So there's
no, I think I'll stick with the burger.
I got nervous after your sip of
Yeah,
Miller
I'll stick
Lite
with
at
the
Carb
burger.
Day. We can't be
I didn't
having that
realize
Bloody
it was
Mary.
a drink.
Oh, yeah, it's a Bloody Mary. Look at here.
No.
This is what it is. Look at that.
Yeah, no, I'm
Oh.
out. I'm out.
Okay.
I also need to plan ahead with the fair and do you don't eat for 12 to 24 hours
Right.
before.
That is a
Or
rule.
after.
That is a rule.
That's a given.
Yeah.
But certainly the pre-fast is important.
All right. The Pacers opening night center for next season will be ...
Great question.
Opening night center.
Gosh, that is a great question.
Bring me DeAndre Ayton, who I do not think will fit with the Colts. Not Colts, sorry, Pacers culturally. But
What about your guy that's always so crazy, James?
Thomas Bryant, my favorite Pacer of all time.
Yeah.
How about it? I would love to
You
see
imagine
Thomas.
82 nights of Thomas Bryant.
Oh, I don't know if he's had enough energy
the
to play
amount of
82
entertainment.
games.
At this point in time, would you be surprised if they just get through next season with Thomas Bryant? Whenever Isaiah Jackson gets healthy, they bring him out too?
Yeah, I'd like to think they'll try something a little bit different.
Yeah.
A little bit more.
There's not a lot
I mean,
of options out there, though.
I
I was
mentioned the
looking
name
through this
Walker
list.
Kessler earlier. That's sort of all right, lottery pick that's shown a flash or two. Can you kind of get him into more of a whatever?
That to
more
me
of a
is
winning
the only.
culture.
As I look down the list of what's available,
Like Ayton,
that's
for
the
example,
one that's at least palatable.
Ayton would be a much different fit next to Pascal Siakam. That's probably worth pointing out.
That's true.
Siakam is very high in his praise of Myles Turner.
Would you sign?
And wanting to be next to that, wanting to be next to the guy that stretches the floor. Siakam's game is old school. It's a little throwback. He wants to maneuver, 18 feet and in kind of at times. So if you've got a little bit more of a, not a stretch center, what does that do to Siakam's game? It might benefit you rebounding wise. Ayton, a great rebounder, but offensively in the half court, it could look a lot different.
A 1-year flyer on DeAndre Ayton at the price of $10 million or less. Although he does have
It's
some
better than a
injury
1-year flyer on
issues.
Andre Drummond, right?
Yeah, I might roll the dice, honestly, if it's just for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
I might do it. Stopgap.
All right, we're up against it, so I'll wrap it up here. What are we watching? For me, Squid Game Season 3, excellent. We watched it. We burned through that in a day and a half. And then The Bear Season 4 is out. We are burning through that as well.
I just started watching Squid Game Season 2 yesterday. My parents were watching Season 3, and I was like, well, I forgot about this show. So I had to go back, and I'm watching Season 2 to catch up to Season 3. So I'll catch up at some point.
It's
Mark.
very good.
A couple of things. When I'm just want to zone out, and I've been doing that a lot lately in the evenings, there's an old series that's been revived, I think, on Amazon called Nikita with Maggie Q. It's basically just guns and intrigue and mystery and unrealistic fun, and you don't have to pay attention to it to keep going along with it. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I just want to chill out.
I watched Moneyball on the plane and forgot how great Jonah Hill is in that.
He's great in a lot of movies. That movie, Wolf
but
of
that's
Wall
such
Street.
a different role, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought he was, really, really good. So, watch that on the plane
Moneyball's
out.
a great movie.
Yeah, it was.
I did start watching something on the plane that I've kind of gotten into too. Whoop. It is Department Q. I don't know why there's all these Qs in my life, but Department Q is this kind of burned out, washed out cop over in Scotland that starts solving mysteries. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay.
Nothing crazy. So,
there you go.
All right. Anything for you?
I said The Bear and Squid Game.
Yeah, The Bear. Looking forward to starting that one up too. All right, coming up next, Scott Agnes is going to stop by. He'll give us his thoughts on everything that's happened with both the Pacers and the Fever over the last 24 hours. It's next at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
JB and Jeff.
With the 11th pick in the 2015 NBA Draft, the Indiana Pacers select Myles Turner from the University of Texas.
I really don't know much about Indianapolis, about the city itself. I have a lot of family in Fort Wayne, Indiana. A lot of my mom's side lives down there.
Very young player, but we think in the near future we're going to continue to watch his growth. He's a hard worker. And we just feel like in the near future he's going to be something special for us.
Halliburton to Turner on top. The pick and pop three ties the game.
Turner gets cut off, and he banks it off the window, +1.
And everything offensively going Turner's way right there.
Turner is there, and he hits a three.
I'm just thinking in my mind, go to the guy who's got 37 on 14 shot attempts.
Turner with a 3 to shoot, 2 to shoot. Oh, my goodness! Is happening here. Turner is feeling it, and why not? Why not? Why not? A 3 from 2 miles away, out on the left side. This cannot possibly be happening.
Myles Turner. First round pick, the 11th overall selection back in 2015. I think it was only the second draft that Adam Silver was ever the commissioner. I was surprised to hear his voice on that right there. But all those years in Indiana, now he goes to the Milwaukee Bucks, and we have to try to figure out what's next for the Pacers. And here to help us sort all of that out, and maybe even dip in on the Fever win last night as well. Scott Agnes joins us now.
Well, we got to start with the news of the night.
Uh-oh.
Scott, what's the latest on Red Panda? Your updates were
There
needed. Your updates were tremendous. You were on site. You were all over it.
Good point.
My heart skipped 10 beats. Red Panda, for those unfamiliar, the beautiful, graceful artist that is, the unicycle, the bowls on her head, the halftime show. She falls last night. What did you witness?
Yeah, rare fall. Everybody was in shock when it happened. She landed kind of on her rear, but then immediately KB grabbed like her right wrist and forearm. But I was told she was taken to a hospital for tests and evaluation, and that was kind of the latest. So I'm sure she got x-rays and such. It's probably a fracture of her arm of some kind,
Oof.
but otherwise seemingly came out just fine from that fall from 8 or 10 feet or whatever it is. And so, she tried to walked off the court. Maybe it was just a little bit stressed or in more pain. And they just said, hey, you wait here. We'll get you a wheelchair. And then wheeled her off into the tunnel. And no halftime show. She was just getting started. Just getting started with her music as the fell happened. I was stunned.
Yeah, I think the greatest tribute I can give to Red Panda is, I always look forward to seeing her. And I've been watching her for 30 years. And I've never seen her drop a plate or a bowl or anything. It's amazing.
She's
It's amazing.
The best.
All right, so let's move on to other things right now. Scale of 1 to 100. How shocked were you? Not that Myles Turner left to go somewhere else in free agency, but it was the Milwaukee Bucks of all teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go about 95. And to me, it's not even the team. It's the fact that some team maneuvered enough to figure out space. Because, Jeff, what have we been talking about for the last 5 months here is the Pacers are bidding against themselves here. There's no one else with legitimate cap space outside of the Brooklyn Nets. We saw them use it quickly. And so it was a one-team race. And so the fact that any team jumped in and made this not just a competition, but took him away, that's why it is so stunning to everyone involved.
Scott, obviously we all were stunned, like you just said, and I'm still trying to process what happened. But when you look at where the Pacers go from here, what options do they have now at center? And how would you, if you put your GM hat on, sort of approach what next steps you take to bring in someone to perhaps replace Myles Turner?
Yeah, the good news is the Pacers still have several options in terms of financially, just about $20 million or so. So it's not like they completely were out of sorts and had nothing else of their to their availability here. The challenge, and of course, is the center market has been ridiculously strong right now, and there aren't a ton of good replacements out there, and certainly none at similar or close to value. Here's where you're even more disappointed. It's another pain in your side that a player like Isaiah Jackson wasn't able to have a healthy year, and now coming off his rookie contract, this is exactly when you want to pay a guy like Isaiah Jackson and have him move up the ladder and take over some starting duties in an ideal world here. I still think they should bring Isaiah back. I think I'd have a hard time bringing James Wiseman back as well, to have two Achilles guys that are right now about 8 months removed from surgery, and to have to depend on them not just to play in this physical NBA, but also at that fast-paced and high-playing style. I have a difficult time with that. So to me, I'm canvassing the league, and what I'm looking for, James, is that guy that's maybe a little bit unhappy in his role, or perhaps the team went out in free agency and just recruited over him and got a different center. There's guys that are always unhappy. So you're having conversations with agents. Agents are obviously aware that Pacers are in need of a center and now are in a little bit of a desperate scenario. But the good news is it does feel kind of like a soft reset year, doesn't it, James? Like,
yeah.
You don't have Halliburton, but you don't want to, and for that reason and more, you don't want to make foolish decisions like going way deep into the luxury tax and all those different things.
Can I interest you in a one-year flyer on former Pacers legend DeAndre Ayton?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I'd be interested in a little bit of a reclamation project and seeing what he could become. Also, I'm not sure he's a great perfect style fit with Halliburton, but look, Halliburton's not going to be out there. I think I would probably expect to see the Pacers play kind of a hybrid of their offense of what we have seen. Not to 100% at that same pace, but probably something very similar. Instead of being top 2, maybe they're top 10 in the league. And I think Ayton probably could fit more within that. And to be honest, he's probably one of the best, more reasonable options that is out there. He gave back, I saw, about $10 million. Well, the Pacers have $10 million that would be comfortable for them to share with him in a one, maybe even try to do a 2-year deal and get a team option on that second year is something I would look to do.
Scott Agnes with us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Scott, I know it was a long night and an early morning in the Central Time Zone, so thank you for joining us and bumping up a day. I guess let's start here. Or I guess as much as your general understanding, what do you think the Pacers' offer was? 3 for $60? I feel like we've seen these conflicting reports. How close do you think it got to Milwaukee's offer of, I think it was 4 for $107?
Yeah, I'm still waiting to try to get full clarity on that because exactly what you're saying. And here was the telltale for me, KB, was the night one of free agency there. And we were all looking like, all right, 10 minutes, maybe an hour after it happens, something gets done. And I think it's at that point where the chaos ensued. And I thought what was notable is everybody on all sides, KB, were silent about what was going on and conversations and all those different things. I have not gotten confirmation from any side about the money that was potentially offered there. But I'm sure the Pacers made an offer. It just clearly did not stack up to what the Bucks had to offer there. And who can blame him if he was able to get, say, an extra year and to clearly top out at more than $100 million at age 29? I know he's a different player. It's a different era, but I still go back to at this point in his career, Roy Hibbert was traded several times and now out of the league basically at this age. And on the other side, Myles Turner just got a nice payday.
Okay, and then I want to also relay this email here. We had this from listener Luke. Read this earlier in the show, but he shares this. He goes, a clear message was just sent to Tyrese Halliburton, any potential superstar, that the Simon family is not willing to spend money to win a title or build the dominant team. If this city doesn't want to embrace mediocrity and see a potential Hall of Fame player leave, not get a title, fans should be questioning the Simon family's stewardship of the Pacers. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's unfair. My understanding is this front office, which includes new minority owner Stephen Rales, is willing to go into the tax. But the thing that I think often gets lost on the outside here is that you have to be smart about it. You have to be strategic about it. And the minute you start paying into the tax, It bumps up your clock. It adds their multiplier for each additional year that becomes the repeater tax with all this. So for the Pacers, and whether it's in this situation or another, to pay, say, an additional $20 million in tax, it's also not just that, by the way. You have to keep in mind that all the teams, which probably is roughly half, maybe slightly more, that was not a tax team, KB, they get that payout as well. So they get some money there. And so it's a complicated situation, but basically I believe that the ownership and the Simon family in particular is willing to do what it takes to make a championship level run and to run it back. Reality is the math, the equation, all of that changed when Halliburton went down. And I don't want to call it a lost year next year, but it's not going to live up to the potential. And so for that reason, I think you have great hesitation about starting the clock to the repeater tax. And now if Halliburton was healthy, by the way, and you didn't go into the tax, then we'd have big problems. Then you really would have issues with it. But I can understand that position right now.
Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files, joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline right now. I'm just curious, when you look ahead, Pascal Siakam, what's the state of his game going to be like in 2 to 3 years when we start to get Halliburton back and they're really starting to reload to try and make more runs again? I love Pascal, but he's not getting any younger. What's his game going to look like 2-3 years from now?
Yeah, that's why they really needed to maximize trying to hit this window. And it wasn't as much about this year as it was set up to be for next year, I think, Jeff. You're right. He's 31, I think. I think he'll be solid for another 2 or 3. It's really honestly just that last year. I think he'll have one more year maybe under contract at 34, turning 35. That's the only one you're concerned with. Although I would keep in mind he's been able to do. He's done a great job adapting his game, right? Like he's much more of a slower, methodical half-court player, yet he's adapted to playing fast. He's also a guy that picked up the game late. So he has less wear on those tires, if you want to put in those that perspective. Is he's a guy that didn't start playing when he was 2 or 3. It was more when he was, I think, 16, 17, 18. So that definitely helps in the wear and tear. And again, I think Rick Carlisle did a good job of managing his minutes last season. I think you obviously have to be better about that even more this upcoming season. But to your point, the onus is on maximizing the next 2 or 3 years with him by his side, and while Halliburton's just now entering his peak.
Last one from me, Scott. When you look at just the way this team is now structured in the absence of Myles Turner, on the flip side, what the Bucks did to get him, did you have like a flashback to the Monte Ellis, waive and stretch provision? And, to the extent of which they did this, because that to me, I thought of Monte Ellis pretty early on. I was reminded of that. But to see it in this effect with Damian Lillard, like how shocked were you from just that aspect of it, to maneuver and make a move that drastic to obviously try to keep a star like Giannis happy in Milwaukee?
Yeah, it was stunning because that is so much money to give up. Now we got to remember he had a 2-year deal left. By the way, he signed that in Portland. So he never even played on that extension in Milwaukee. And obviously this upcoming year for him, he wasn't going to be available with an Achilles injury. But you're basically – so in the context here, you're basically paying him, James, like $55 million for 2 years from now to just go away and not be part of it. And so you can really add that onto Myles Turner's bill, I think. And it just speaks – I think so much of the desperation the Bucks have to try to keep Giannis happy here. And I think Pacer fans could probably relate with this a little bit, right? Like the Bucks get a franchise level player, a guy, best player in franchise history you're talking about here. And you're just trying to pull all the levers, all the moves to make sure he's happy. And they go out, and we talk so much about the Pacers not being able to get big free agents. Milwaukee's very much in that same boat. Miami has to be up there among one of the top free agents that they've been able to sign outright, not go and trade, not draft. So I thought it was a big, bold move, but you have to do things like that when you have, top 20 players of all time or whatever Giannis is. So it's a difficult spot, but I understand why they did that.
All right, one last quick question for me, too. We saw the Fever win the Commissioner's Cup in the WNBA last night. They are setting up for a big 5-game homestand starting tomorrow night. First, we'll start with last night's game. Without Caitlin Clark, how surprised were you that they just handled the Minnesota Lynx?
Yeah, definitely surprised. Given the fact, too, this is the best team in the league with Minnesota. They had lost just twice and not once at home this season. And Nafisa Collier was held down to 12 points, really 8 points until garbage time that late in the game. And so, yeah, Jeff, it was absolutely stunning. Like, you knew they could compete and keep it interesting, but to have a commanding 15-point win on the road in that moment, I thought we saw them come together in ways we have not yet seen this season. You talk about their depth a lot, just like the Pacers, and I thought that's what really shined through in the win. Certainly Natasha Howard, her aggressiveness and defense and what she provided at both ends of the floor, but it was big shot by different players at different times. And so now all along what this team's been seeking is a little bit of consistency, both in their play, the players available, and all those sorts of things. And so you hope this can be a big building block over the final 7 games before All-Star break.
All right, buddy. Thanks so much for helping us out this morning. Have fun at the game tomorrow night. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Scott.
You got it. By the way, I got to mention this. It felt like the Fever celebration last night way bigger than OKC's for the NBA championship. That was the most subdued celebration I have ever seen, and the Fever easily topped that with just a little bit last night.
That was the sight of a lot of folks who don't make a ton of money all of a sudden being gifted a ton of money all at once. That's what that was.
Yeah, absolutely. They were having fun, and they should. That's exactly what Adam Silver and the rest of the NBA and WNBA wants to do. They want to emphasize multiple opportunities for success throughout a season. So there you go.
All right, buddy. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Thanks.
There he is, Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files on the Payless Liquors hotline. It is now time to check things down and give you some info and details on everything we've been talking about.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Still not even 24 hours old. The news that Myles Turner will be departing the Indiana Pacers as a free agent. He will be signing with the Milwaukee Bucks. Kevin Bowen, 4 years, $107 million. We all get it. I think we're still processing through all the business and the machinations. But I think if people are just in Indianapolis are going to miss Myles Turner. He'd really become a fan favorite for good reason here.
Yeah, I mean, Mark made the montage for a reason, and there's plenty of memories within that. Thanks for the memories, of course, the song that Mark ended with there. So, I think that's what honestly stings the most about it. Certainly, there's unknown at center and all of that. What's the actual fit? But I would say the true displeasure that some fans have is just because Myles is a pretty rare pro athlete that plays in a singular place for 10 years, and by all accounts, really enjoyed it. And whether it's Turner's block, whether it's years of him being on the trade block and not being moved, I think there's just an emotional pull that you had towards him. Rosie Bowen's only Pacer jersey is number 33, Myles Turner. So I think all of that, you add it up, and that's why people do have a little bit of damn, I wish that would have ended better than it did.
Have you broken the news to her yet?
Yes.
Oh, how'd that go?
She's confused.
All right.
She's 5 years old, so explaining, trades in the NBA and free agency.
She doesn't understand the second apron?
Yeah, we have not gone there with the second apron yet.
Well, you tell
Rose. She does love baking.
I was like,
Kevin, would you be surprised, though, if he hadn't sat down and broken it down for
you
her?
tell Rosie and Max that we don't understand it either.
Explain the Exhibit 10 at dinner tonight.
So bird rights tonight is what we'll be focused on.
With your dino nuggets, right?
Exactly.
All right. Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever do win the Commissioner's Cup in the WNBA last night. We were just talking about that. A 74-59 win on the road at Minnesota. Natasha Howard, the MVP, 16 points, 12 boards. Aaliyah Boston was terrific, 12 and 11. Ari McDonald
and
continues
6 assists.
And 6 assists. That's true.
On Aaliyah Boston.
Yeah, because she was terrific in moving the ball around last night. And then we had Ari McDonald, who just continues to impress every time she shows up on the floor. She had 12 points last night. Kelsey Mitchell continues her nice run of play, 12 points. Sophie Cunningham was terrific, 13 points and 7 rebounds. Everybody contributed in that game last night.
Yeah, I think Erin McDonald, again, to your point, Jeff, has played outstanding basketball for the Fever, and she is a DAWG dog.
Yeah, and again, MVP Natasha Howard, our Payless Liquors Player of the Game. The Player of the Game is brought to you after every game by Payless Liquors. Get more and pay less at Payless Liquors. All right, moving on to Major League Baseball. Last night, It was the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Boston Red Sox, but we didn't get a decision. 2-1 the score. The Red Sox lead in the top of the fourth. It was suspended by rain. They will pick that one up at 2:30 today and then play a doubleheader when it's all said and done. The Cubs get a win over the Cleveland Guardians by a score of 5-2. Your guy Matthew Boyd is looking good on the mound these days.
It's looking good. Any relation, James? Have you done a 23andMe?
I have not done a 23andMe, but I'll take full credit for his athletic ability.
Cardinals have been shut out 3 games in a row.
No. They've been shut out 4 games out of their last 7. But
Okay, well,
not 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Even
He's
as
going deep. He's going all in.
Even as an avid Cardinals hater. I was like, no, actually.
They won one of those games, right?
Well,
the other team was shut out, right?
They swept the Guardians over the weekend, and then they lost the first 2 to the Pirates.
1-0 was the final score last night. So 2
4
in
out
a
of
row.
7, though, they've been shut out.
Yeah. Struggling offensively there. Indianapolis Indians play the Louisville Bats tonight. They lost in Louisville 12-5 last night. Coming up in about 15 minutes, Decatur Central star Tyrone Tracy, now the New York Giants, is going to be coming to studio, Kevin Bowen.
Yeah, and shout out to a hell of a Major League Baseball career for Tucker Barnhart.
Yeah.
I know I think a schedule to come on with John maybe today, but Tucker, a hell of a career, 10 years plus in Major League Baseball. Great dude and huge Pacer fan, I might add there. So impressive run for the Brownsburg native. I think he will enjoy some times with his boys and a little golf course action here. So certainly one of the better NBA or MLB careers, I should say, we've seen here in recent years out of the state of Indiana. Tucker Barnhart calling it a career.
One of our favorites, and I could see Tucker someday being maybe a manager in Major League Baseball. What do you think?
See that? I could see that. I think he'd do a great job from an analyst standpoint as well if he ever wanted to get into that.
He's got a lot of options. Yeah, he's terrific and a really good friend of the station. We've always appreciated hearing his voice and having him on here. And congratulations on a terrific career. And hopefully, just get to chill out and have a good time at this point.
His name proudly displayed on the Brownsburg baseball field. See it every day.
I like it. All right, coming up in a moment, we'll talk a little bit more about the events of the last 24 hours. As I mentioned, Tyrone Tracy in studio coming up in about 20 minutes from now. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Happy Hump Day, and thanks for listening this morning. However you're picking us up, whether it's 93.5, 107.5 FM, either one of those, you can go to the App Store and download the 107.5 The Fan app. You can go to 1075thefan.com. My favorite way to listen these days, guys, you can hear us very clearly everywhere, all around the region, is you go to 93.1, which is our friends over there at WIBC, but if you just click it one to the right, and you've got an HD radio, which most cars do now, it's 93.3 HD2, you can hear us really well just about everywhere.
Yeah, my Civic, 2017 Civic HD. So, yeah, I mean,
You've been doing that too?
Whatever, older car, 8 years old car. So, yeah, hopefully you can hear us loud and clear, and we appreciate you all. I know it's a busy time of year for travel, so safe travels.
Yeah.
And hopefully you guys can enjoy some of the summer weather.
I wonder how many folks are right now leaving Indianapolis packed up in the family truckster for their annual vacation right now.
It might be. I remember a lot of road trips this time of year with my family, and I'm sure a lot of folks in the Midwest can relate because I feel like all of us who grew up in this area know that driving to us is not as far as it is to others, if that makes sense. Like if I say I got to drive, 3 hours, some people look at me like I'm crazy if they're not from the Midwest, but it's like I feel like 3 hours is like you grow up on that around here. So,
dude, I grew up out west. Anything around 10, 12, you're like, okay, that's
exactly
how that goes. I can remember we literally did the family truckster one year. We put everybody in the back of a station wagon, and we drove from Denver to Disneyland. Had like a 4-day. We were gone for like a week, and 4 days of it was driving to it.
I was going to say, that seems like a very long drive.
It was definitely one of those, hey, you're leaning on me. Get your head off my shoulder.
Well, Mark's our resident long-distance driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done the road trips all the time, and every time we get to Florida, we get to like my mother-in-law's house or the hotel. I'm like, all right, everybody in the family, get away from me for a little bit.
Yep.
I need to go take a nap. Just don't bother me.
Take a nap, and I'm going to take a beer with me as I'm napping.
That's how that goes.
Pacers starting center next year. Let me give you 2 pools.
Okay.
One pool. The guys that have put on a Pacers uniform. James Wiseman, Isaiah Jackson, Tony Bradley, Thomas Bryant. Or the field.
The field.
Yeah, I'll take
give me the
Actually,
field.
that one too.
I was a little shocked. I made a joke about, the DeAndre Ayton thing with Scott Agnes, calling him a Pacers legend. I mean, he was a Pacer for all of 1 hour, I believe, when he signed.
Got the Photoshop jersey.
Got the Photoshop jersey and everything like that.
It's on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
And this was when he signed the max extension, and the Suns matched it to keep him in Phoenix. But he did not sound like someone who was like completely opposed to it. He's like, hey, if you can get a 1-year flyer on this guy, perhaps a team option, if it's a 2-year deal in the second year, would you entertain that and bring him in to kind of stabilize that center position? So for me, again, I get the injury issues in years past. I get the effort issues and things like that certainly would have to be addressed, as far as red flags if he were to be brought in. However, for a 1-year flyer and a down season, kind of a gap year, I'm not opposed to bringing in DeAndre Ayton. Former number 1 pick.
What are your thoughts?
I think every answer I'll probably sigh at, let me be clear, from a center standpoint. You're pretty much back at square one the next offseason, and I'm not acting like there's some longish term possibility out there at all. There's a little part of me that's kind of curious of like, okay, could you package your first? But again, next year, if you're going to be really bad, you probably don't want to package your first.
That's what I'm
you
saying.
kind of want to
Yeah.
leave that to potentially have in your back pocket. But, could you find a little bit of the, again, I brought up the name Walker Kessler earlier, a little bit of the younger lottery pick that, has shown a flash or two, but hasn't worked out necessarily.
He's probably, $10 million a year guy?
Yeah,
$10 million a year, something like that?
His money is probably difficult, but that is something that I would explore. But I'm not, I don't slam the door shut at James' idea at all. Stylistically, much different player. Again, great rebounder. And, could you revive that career, which is, had some red flags here recently, since certainly those Phoenix days.
All the guys you just read from, though, could you see a situation where they just use all those guys for maybe 15 minutes a game?
It's not the craziest sort of idea. Wiseman and Jackson, of course, coming off the Achilles. Right. So, those would be.
But the other two, right out of the
your
gate.
questions. And Tony Bradley, I believe, is already under contract. I think they already picked up the team
Bryant's
option
a free
for
agent,
him.
right?
Right. So I think Bryant's the only one restricted offer to Isaiah Jackson. So There is that aspect of it. Do you just, kind of patchwork the old tire there for this year? I don't know. Maybe you give some of that money to Benedict Mathurin on the extension. I think the Mathurin thought is just very interesting on both sides of it. Mathurin strikes me as a dude that would probably just want to bet on himself. But would there be any enticement to, hey, the Pacers are offering this sort of extension? Would you take that? Neesmith took it.
I'm intrigued by him. Tremendously intrigued by him.
But Mathurin, I think, is just wired a little bit differently of would he kind of bet on himself. There's been no rest whatsoever for Kevin Pritchard and that group since that season ended. I think I said it the Monday after Game 7. So many more questions now are on the table. So many more questions you never thought you'd have to entertain. They are now on the table. You have to seriously entertain them. And now the Turner one is front and center.
Speaking of centers, did you see just a day after signing that huge max extension that he was eligible for, Jaren Jackson in Memphis all of a sudden had surgery for something akin to turf toe, and it's unknown how long he's going to be out. Did you see that, James?
Yeah, I saw the average time, and I'm sorry to whoever this Twitter user is, or really a researcher for medical purposes. They shared on Twitter that the average lost time if you were to have surgery for a turf toe injury is about 3 months. And so that's a significant injury for Jaren Jackson Jr. And to your point, Jeff, he actually didn't sign the contract. He agreed to the terms.
Yeah.
And I wonder, would that change anything in theory? Seriously, I mean, if you haven't put pen to paper, nothing's set in stone. So would they have some other provisions they might put into that deal to, sort of address this or acknowledge that the fact that you are hurt? And he didn't get hurt doing anything crazy from what the Memphis Grizzlies put out there.
He was just playing basketball.
Yeah, he
with
was
some
just
dudes.
in an open run probably, and messed up his foot. But yeah, he's a former Indiana high school basketball star, and obviously I would hope that Jaren Jackson Jr. can get well sooner rather than later.
Yeah, just the timing, crazy on the timing right there.
Yes.
All right. In the meantime, we've got stuff to give away, Mark Dykton. I'm going to go one up on you, James. I'm going to go second caller today for a family 4-pack to go see the Indy 11 this weekend. Mark, what are the details on that game?
I'm trying to find that Ellie De La Cruz drop now as you're making me do more work.
Yeah.
No, it's a 4-pack of
Easy
tickets. 4-pack of tickets to the Monterey Bay matchup on Saturday, July 5th, 7:30 at Carroll Stadium. So, long weekend for everybody. You want to go see some soccer? Get out to Carroll Stadium, 317-239-1070. I guess we're going second caller. So, fast fingers, maybe hold off a second.
Let's try to take it up a little bit. I didn't want to make too much work for you, but I mean, come on.
Jeff likes losers.
Not that bad.
So if you're the first loser, call in.
Mm-hmm. I like randomness is what I like. I like randomness.
I respect it.
We will have Tyrone Tracy Jr. in studio here coming up to close out the show. Really nice rookie season for him with the New York Giants. Obviously, Decatur Central product. Finished his college career at Purdue a couple of years ago. Really nice pass catching back. I remember we had Dane Brugler on at the Combine. We asked Dane, who's kind of your favorite, day 3 under the radar pick. He mentioned Tyrone Tracy Jr. And unfortunately for Colts fans, he was a part of the Colts losing in New York late last season. He actually had 20 carries in that game against his hometown team. So he will join us here coming up in studio to round things out.
All right, looking forward to that. We'll tell you who is on the phone winning tickets right now with Mark as we continue in a moment. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
One final time here on a Wednesday morning. Hoping to have Tyrone Tracy Jr. in studio to round things out. Really nice rookie year for the Decatur Central product. Wrapped up his college career at Purdue and played well for the Giants. Actually, got the best of the Colts late in the season here this past season as not only just a true running back, but also as a pass-catching threat. So plan to join us in studio here, and we'll have you covered all throughout the day. Again, we are the only show that didn't get the Myles Turner reaction from yesterday, so we'll continue to monitor things on that front. Do we see another move as we are we officially like day 3 free agency, day 4, something like that? I'm trying to think when.
I must say I'm not counting the days. I must say I do not.
Day 2? I don't know.
Officially, I believe it's day 2. So
we'll see the dominoes and now some of these other moves and where the Pacers can kind of slide in there as they look for a center for next season. One thing we did note, we were chatting about it during the break, Fever win last night. I don't think it's that far-fetched to say their biggest win in the franchise in 9 years, considering it's an in-season tournament championship for them. Caitlin Clark sat again with a groin injury. I don't want to go here just yet. They play tomorrow night, but there is part of me, James, it's like, man, All-Star weekend is in 2 weeks. If you thought Tyrese Halliburton had to wear the mayor's hat for NBA All-Star weekend 2 years ago, Caitlin Clark's going to have about 10 times of that in her responsibilities that weekend. Is there any part of you that would like to see her sit through All-Star weekend? I mean, she's had multiple leg injuries this season and has missed time. Very foreign for her career. I know we're still 2+ weeks away from it, but that thought has crept into my mind.
It's crept into mine as well. And when you say sit through the All-Star break, are you saying sit out the All-Star game as well?
Yeah. I mean, through the all. Yeah.
They're looking up Kevin's address right now to go bring the picture.
The Hive is going to get you.
But to your point, I actually agree. I think that
I'm not here to just appease,
I know,
fans of the WNBA.
but she'll have a ton of personal pressure, and this is where I think your inner circle, the people around you who can kind of protect you from yourself, can remind you of the big picture. Because if she is to rest, and again, I don't know how she's feeling. She could be feeling, great in a couple of days and say, I'm ready to go for, Thursday's game against the Aces. But if this is something where it's still bothering you to a certain degree, yes, I think sitting out would be the wise decision. And she could still go to all the other fan-related activities, just not playing the actual game. And so, yeah, it's something for this team to consider. And they've continued to say it's day-to-day.
Right, they have not acted like this is going to be through the All-Star break, and they have.
But but on the flip side, they haven't acted like this is just going to be some quick thing. They've played it very smart to kind of leave it open-ended on both sides.
And they got a ton of games. They've got like 6 or 7 games until the All-Star break. So, I mean, it would be beneficial, obviously, for her to return. The unfortunate nature about last night is it's a great win, unbelievably, on the road against a great team. Unfortunately, it doesn't count to the standings with where you're at from an in-season tournament. That'd be something to keep an eye on.
Does it not bother you, but should they treat it almost like kind of like a starting pitcher in the All-Star game where you're like, okay, she can go for like an inning or something like that and then play it like that way? Or it's also like, I mean, obviously they're not going full go in the All-Star game. Give her like, you can start, but like maybe cap it at like 7 minutes total in the game or something like that, like a minutes restriction or something.
Last year it was pretty darn intense, and I know that was Team USA versus the WNBA All-Stars, so it was a little bit of a different twist to it.
Mm-hmm. But they're not doing that this year.
Watching some of the intensity of those WNBA games, I don't think it's going to be as soft.
Have you seen the polling for Caitlin Clark?
That's true.
I was going to say, in the post-game locker room of her and Aaliyah Boston chirping about the rest of the WNBA and what they're thinking about the Fever winning that title there. So it's a fair point, and I guess I'll just be curious to see how the Fever monitor it here over the next couple of weeks. I threw some of those center names at you guys last segment. Again, I'd probably lean with what you guys said, the field, in terms of, hey, will the Pacers starting center be one of the guys we saw last year? Isaiah Jackson, James Wiseman, Thomas Bryant, Tony Bradley. Will it be one of those 4, or will it be someone we don't know in the other field? I would agree with you there. But out of those 4, do any of those 4 somewhat intrigue you? Like, is there anybody you look at that group? Because they're all kind of the young, Brian's a little older, but they're all relatively youngish you know what, you got first-round picks and several of them, you know, Wiseman being very high. Any of those four, do you look at and like, you know what, I'd like to see more out of that guy, even if it's not in a starting role?
Probably Isaiah Jackson for me because he is originally your draft pick. He has, you know, a lot of upside when it comes to that athletic ability. Now, did he lose some of that because of the Achilles injury? Now, I'm not so sure. I know Achilles injury surgeries and things like that, the recoveries have been amazing in recent years, and he is someone who you've invested a lot of time into over the early stage of his career. So Isaiah Jackson will be my pick because of his ability to potentially protect the rim as a lob threat. He gives you a different feel than you've had at center. And really, although they missed him a lot at times because they didn't have that like true lob threat, rolling to the rim, bouncy, quick twitch athlete that can, as you know, change a game. I mean, a couple of blocks here or there, those could be possessions or fast breaks. So he's one that entices me.
Yeah, I would say from a potential standpoint, Isaiah Jackson would be my selection too.
And he's still young. He's very young.
Right. And I remember, I swear he did this. I might have to double check. I swear when he went down to the G League, he actually shot and made a few 3-pointers. And I'm just interested with that. You've seen this with some centers.
Yeah, he was shooting it a little bit before. Yeah.
Like some centers have never been shooters. Brook Lopez probably the best example of it. And then have just kind of resurrected their career, really changed things significantly. I'm not holding my breath for that, but he would be one. Again, it was a very small sample size, but he was a former top 5 pick. For what it's worth, Rick Carlisle did say to us last Tuesday, James Wiseman was already 360 dunking it in terms of his Achilles rehab. He is also one that I'd throw on the intrigue list. Now, again, he's a little bit more of your traditional big, kind of an older school, definitely a lob threat. Honestly, Isaiah Jackson probably is a little bit, even though their body types are different. He would be one as well. Again, I still think you go outside of the building to try and find your starting center, but those guys brought back and just seeing what else is left in there. Obviously, the Achilles injuries are significant. I wouldn't mind seeing Wiseman either. Tony Bradley, by the way, they did pick up the team option.
Yes.
We know he will be.
But I believe that year that they just picked up isn't fully guaranteed. So they have some wiggle room there to say, hey, we could basically say goodbye to him at any point and still acquire somebody else. But I will say, for Tony Bradley, though, respect. I talked to him throughout the finals, man, and I know – it didn't end the way the Pacers wanted it to, but he was telling me, look, man, I started in the G League this season. I've been chasing this dream, been through some injury stuff, been a journeyman. And he was just telling me about how, you dream of being an NBA player, but you don't dream of being a journeyman. You don't dream of being a bench guy. You don't dream of going through all this adversity, so to speak, and how he stuck with it and how the Pacers really gave him an opportunity to play and contribute. And I thought that given what the Pacers had to work with and him starting his career with the team on a 10-day contract, he did fine in his role. Seriously.
Put a bow tie on the Myles Turner thoughts as we close it out here on a Wednesday. Again, I was surprised, not shocked, and I look at it as the window from a tax standpoint. It is closed for the next year, maybe even 2. And now what you're looking at is reopen that window. When Halliburton gets back and healthy, you hope Siakam is still somewhat in his prime at that point. Obviously obviously Nesmith, Nembhard, you would assume a Mathurin or a Walker grow and ascend, and then you're going to have to go out and make another move. That's kind of how I view it. They don't want to start that clock with Turner and Siakam both making that money at the age that they are at, and I get that. As disappointed as it is to see Myles Turner exit on these terms, I get that business-wise.
I totally agree. Last thought from me real quick. I know Caitlin Cooper, just put this out there. She believes that the Pacers should have a postseason press conference before the start of Summer League. And I totally agree. I think you need to address some things, talk to your fan base, and kind of give an update on the team.
He's James Boyd. I'm Kevin Bowe and Jeff Rickard, Mark Dykton. We'll be back tomorrow.